to the past.
Okay.
So, how did you start the org? How did it come to be?
How did I start the org? Well, funny enough, one day I was sitting there with a group of friends at this place called Twin Peaks, and one of my friends mentioned Jinxie, and I was like, Jinxie, who the fuck is that? So they pulled up his Twitch, and we were watching him, and he said something about like a $50,000 like game. I was like, what? There's no way. So me going into Discord and going around, I went through the main R6 server on Discord, and then I got recruited by forgot what org it was, but some small org where me, Knight, and Toxic, or when we get farther into the podcast, they'll become relevant, recruited me to go play with them. Well, we joined this org together, and we were sitting there, and I was like, oh, okay. Learning on how leagues work, on who runs things. I was like, I want to do this. So one day I was like, yo, Knight, Toxic, if I make an organization, will you guys join? And they were like, hell yeah. And now that's the beginning of Wild Boys right there.
How many teams do you have in the beginning?
Okay. So in the very beginning of Wild Boys, I didn't understand on how necessarily comp worked. I thought as if I get 5 players, I have a team. I didn't understand that you had to have the best of the best, or they all had to be champ. So me, Knight, and Toxic decided to make 23 teams in Wild Boys when we first started. And half the team were coppers, half were like silvers, a couple plats. I think we had 1 diamond for 23 teams. And then, yeah, and then through then, we became more knowledgeable in the comp scene. And now, today, I'm pretty sure we have 12 teams.
So to also go off of that, is there like one player or a specific player or specific team that helped you gain popularity?
Yes. So, are you guys familiar with the guy named Cosmic?
A little.
Okay. So, Cosmic, one day, I was sitting there on Wild Boys posting looking for org/players. I was going, hey, join Wild Boys. We're this and that. Well, Cosmic reached out, and his team at the time was called Code Black, and they were, in my opinion, probably one of the best teams in comp at the time. And Cosmic was like, hey, I have a really good team looking for an org. I'm willing to help get you started and etc. So I was like, shit, help me out. Well, Cosmic, me, Knight, and Toxic all got in a VC, and we talked, and next thing later, Code Black joined Wild Boys, and from there, we took off like a rocket ship. I think we went from 50 people in our Discord server to 500 in a matter of 2 months. So when I say we skyrocketed, it was very fast.
All right.
Crazy.
And so you kind of contribute your success a little bit to picking up Code Black and all that, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Without
right.
Cosmic, we would have had a very rough start. Absolutely, 100%.
All right. And kind of going back to your players a little bit, who was your like favorite when your org was still developing? If you had to pick, if you had to.
Ooh, see, I can't answer that because
Can't answer.
you got to realize.
I understand. Yeah.
From an org owner, if I pick one person, the other person will be like, "Oh, I thought you liked me," and it's just gonna start little fights, and we'll stay away from that conversation.
We'll stay away from the drama of the podcast. It's only episode 1.
Yep.
We'll stay away.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. So, but I did have a couple favorite teams. Obviously, Code Black, and believe it or not, 619 was our very first team to ever win us a trophy for our organization. They won D2 Scissor League, and they got a little trophy for it. And that was our, believe it or not, that was our very first team. And ever since then, 619 was with us for a little bit. They left due to certain issues, and they came back. So 619 is probably one of the most loyal teams we've had, believe it or not.
Okay. Looking back from what you know now and all your hindsight and experience, what would you change?
So I came into the comp community wealthier than most. And one thing I did wrong, I would say, is I implemented a pay-per-win system to a certain extent, which wasn't really known at comp at the time. So I was offering around $30 to $40 per win. This is just for a single league game. $40 for the win, and then when you win the league, you keep all the earnings. We don't want no percentage. Well, frankly, since I came in there making the level of money wise, people started getting used to it. So when we had to lower it, it kind of like people kind of got a little bit like cranky. But thankfully now we are the only organization that I know of that currently pays pay per win. So now it's not an issue. But before it was HMC, and when we implemented pay per win, I'm pretty sure they followed us. At least that's how I see it. And they basically made us hold to a certain like standard, if that makes sense. Like we couldn't drop it to a certain extent because if we did, they would pick up the team. Well, now since no one's paying anymore, we control the entire market, which is a great thing. But if I could go back in time, I would have offered our starting prices a lot lower.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know, in the comp scene, I've played since, year 2 in comp roughly, and there was never a pay per win back then. And I think you were the first org I'd ever heard of who had started paying per player. And I did hear some crazy amounts at first. I was surprised.
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked. But now it's died out a little bit, which is good. I think that's a lot better because it's not. It's
100%.
not too much. It's not forcing one org to be better than the other. It's competition now, which is good. So now that we've heard about your past, let's kind of look to now. So you want to go ahead, Cards?
Yeah, going off of, let's say the past year, what is your favorite accomplishment from any team, any player?
I think our best accomplishment, believe it or not, it actually has nothing to do with the team. I think it's our staff. I had the chance to go leave and do some personal things, and our staff held down the organization perfectly. For example, we have a staff member named Julia Garbo. He's pretty known. Knight. And believe it or not, when an owner leaves, such as myself, leaves an organization for, let's say, 2 to 3 months at a time, most of the time the org collapses. It disappears. Things stop running. Well, our staff team is set up perfectly. We're like a big family. And with that family, I can leave for, 8 months at a time. And the org's perfectly fine. We have a great budget plan. Recently, I was looking at our budget. So to put in perspective on how we're doing, we are pulling in around $1,200 a month from org money, like pulling it in for free use. So with that gives us a lot of free movement and etc.
All right, talking about the current, is there any player in the past year or so that's like risen crazy in your org that you're like, in the beginning wasn't very well known, wasn't good at the game necessarily? I mean, not necessarily, but just wasn't known, and now that they've developed in your org, that they're shining?
No, I gotta be honest. So one thing about our org that we do differently is when teams run an organization, the owner usually manages the team. Well, for me, as a team joins, as you know, Sprays, I mean, you joined with Redemption, we give you guys full control. So you guys switch in players, switch out. So all we look at is your statistics, but in reality, the team is all up to you. So if there's one player, though, that I have, well, a couple, would have to be Andy. He's pretty known, very known through the comp. He just played with Jinxie recently, and that's a huge flex. I mean, seeing one of your players hop on a Jinxie podcast with 30,000 to 40,000 people watching, and him carrying them, I mean, pretty sure Andy dropped like 32 kills in the game they were playing. And for that right there is just a flex. And knowing that he's part of your organization, I mean, what else could you ask for,
Taking away Cards with this next one.
Yeah, sorry. Is there, in the same sort of idea, is there at least a team that you'd say has improved by themselves as of recent?
CC, they have improved dramatically. Before they weren't doing all that well. They would choke in playoffs, first, second round they would choke. And recently they've been making it to finals, and the only reason they're losing because of Obey. And I mean, everybody knows Obey is probably one of the best teams, if not the best. And still to see CC from going to a team where before we picked them up, they were never hitting the final mark in the major leagues. and now seeing them hit the finals, compete with Obey. I'm pretty sure they just beat Obey today, which is a huge accomplishment for them. And these guys are great. They've been with us for, I think, in 3 months. Great group of guys. Love them. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't tune into that game, but I saw it was a close one. I think it was an 8-7 victory for CC, so that was a good game. But staying on the realm of teams, do you happen to have any PC teams going at this time?
PC team called Wild Boys EU, and they're doing fantastic. But at the same time, once you do really well in a T3 PC league, they start looking for more organization. So frankly, hope not, but we might lose that team here soon. But as of right now, we are currently in the making of an NA PC team. It's looking pretty stacked right now. Hopefully by next month, that team will be launched.
Any players you can give us so far, or you don't want to give anything away too early?
Man, that's all secret, man. Can't give you all my details.
Come on, man.
I keep it secret.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, and then what I would say is, do you have any other teams in like any other games? Or are you only
What do you mean?
R6 org? You know, or do you have like a COD team, like a?
So we have an Overwatch team that's currently in playoffs in a league. They're doing fantastic. We're currently in the works of an Rocket League team, and they're currently competing. We used to have a COD team. As of right now, they're on hold because we want to. With our COD team, we really wanted to expand them to a LAN, but currently our focus has been on so much other things that our COD team's talent is getting wasted online, and we really want to send them to a LAN. So as of right now, they're on, like, we call them a hold. So besides that, we got an Overwatch. To summarize it all, we have an Overwatch team, a Rocket League team, and a COD team that's put on hold, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. Let's talk about the future of Wild Boys, though. You know, let's look a little bit farther in there. Do you plan on
absolutely.
Do you plan, like, for your teams, do you plan on adding more? Do you plan on adding less? Is there any real plan you have yet?
Believe it or not, we are trying to get out of the R6 console scene, not entirely, but to cut it back to almost 3 teams. So, with console comp, frankly, as everybody knows, Ubisoft has pretty much given up on it. And it's sad to see, but there's no profit. There's literally nothing in console comp besides passion. And as you've known, a lot of other orgs have decided to leave. Well, with our big presence, currently in the R6 console community, if we were to leave, that would hit heavily. With sponsors-wise, entries-wise, things would definitely go down. With that being said, the future of Wild Boys isn't, believe it or not, is not with esports. We are moving into game hosting. So before, past a long time ago, before I even ran an organization, I ran things called ARC servers. You guys familiar with those?
Not entirely.
Not sure.
Okay. So back in the day, when 2016 to 2020, there used to be ARC servers where you could join and play, and it was when ARC was at its peak. Well, I owned 3 of the biggest NA ARC servers. I made around $100,000 through donations hosting ARC. Well, ARC died, so I had to move on, hinting why I moved here. Well, our future for Wild Boys is to, when GTA comes out, we have a roleplay server. You guys familiar with 5M?
Somewhat, yeah.
I've heard of it.
I would just explain to the audience sort of what that is, though.
Okay, so 5M is a GTA 5 roleplay. It's when GTA first came out, it was everywhere. That's all people streamed. Pretty sure Kai Cenat, Phantom, and all those guys, they did like a little roleplay scene here recently. But and same with Aiden Ross. Every big streamer you've seen it do it at least once. Well, with GTA 6 coming out, it's probably going to have the same reaction. When GTA drops, it's going to be the game for the next 3 years. That's all what everybody's going to be playing. It's going to be the only game that's going to be streamed. And at least I'm going off of what we saw from GTA 5. Well, what we plan on doing is I've already contacted some people, and we plan on buying a 100,000 person server. And with that, we're going to start hosting through it.
Okay.
So with GTA, we plan on making a huge profit through the 5M community, expand into ARC 2, and expand it into different games through game hosting. And then from those profits, we'll relate it back to console. and try to sponsor more, make bigger prize pools, and make it like an ecosystem, if that makes sense. Like kind of like a economy, you know?
Okay, yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing to go from, though. Was there any major moment where you decided, you just realized that console comp wasn't going to do it, and you just wanted to try to expand a little more, or is it just a gradual thing?
With now with the listeners listening, don't take this in the wrong way, but when we became the biggest and there was no other competition, it gave us the ability to look past the competition out itself and look towards the future. And that's when we started to because before we were always chasing somebody. We were chasing HMC, we were chasing Double OG, and once we passed the organizations, there was no one to chase. So we were like, okay, now let's take from looking down, let's take a broad look at the console comp community. It's the same people. If you look at the streams, the casting, like the 15 to 20 viewers, it's the same people. There's no new people joining. If anything, people are leaving. So with that aspect, it's like, why should we stay here if people are leaving and nobody's joined? Like, hell, I put a $500 sponsorship on SSL, and that will make it the biggest prize pool in the past year for console. And we still have teams disbanding. You know, and it's like, seeing that, it's like, after we gave almost $1,000 for a sponsorship, there's nothing we can do to change it. So that's why we, want to get out of the scene, if that makes sense.
That's fair enough. I mean, I get that. It's at the end of the day, you still got to think somewhat of a business mindset as much as you enjoy it,
Absolutely.
I get that. What I would say then is, do you ever plan on trying to develop console in terms of media presence, or no? Do you just want to just sort of leave your three
So
teams
I always have so I always have a love for console. With that being said, if we ever become bigger, and as of right now, we are doing very.
Well, we still have a couple of teams and players needing to get in, but we at least have a little bit before that. We can talk about the teams. We can talk about who's going to be in this one. We got VANISH, Sins. Should be a bit of a banger, in my opinion, as it generally is. Should be a very exciting one, despite the 14 seed of VANISH. I think there's a lot left in the team, and I think we could certainly see an upset. I think we certainly have seen a different side of Madden-wise Sins as of recent, but I wouldn't count on a team just quite yet. I think there's a lot that could change, a lot that could go on, and I think within reason we could see that. But as we wait for the last few to get in, we're going to go to a tech pause for just a second to finish this up. Well, we don't have everybody in here, but we do at least have 2 people from both sides. Or 1, excuse me. What do you got to say before the game? Anything you want to say to your opponent?
You want us to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, you go first.
Y'all go first. Y'all go first.
Oh, okay.
Y'all the
alright.
underdogs, go first.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's our first league season as a team, so we're already like stoked to be in this. We've been working hard, practicing a lot, and I think it's gonna be a good game. Best of luck to y'all, honestly.
Good luck, good luck. So what I want to say is, this is our first league season as well. We came in here clearly as the underdogs. Nobody knew us. You know, I feel like we proved a statement going through the season, and you know, I still feel like we're the underdogs kind of, cause you know, you see number 1 is DME here, but the only game we lost, we had to forfeit at the beginning of the season. So I feel like we're to come through here, do what we gotta do, take everyone down we see, and they must be scared of us. This is our season. Come on! all that.
Yeah, so maybe you need to be caster. You got the energy for it. God damn.
Yeah, for real.
I respect the passion,
honestly.
honestly.
I'll see y'all after the game.
Bro, you're gonna have to wait this
Look, man.
awkward ass moment, bro. We're all just gonna sit here waiting for one dude to finish his rank game.
I know, bro. I hate
We've
that it
been
had to be
spamming
us, bro.
Like, at this point, just
Told
leave,
him, like
bro.
15 times to cancel this game.
Like, chalk it. Chalk it. It is what it is.
Next season, next
Hey, he has no
season we're
passion.
gonna be on the road, bro. We're gonna be all on a good straight path. We know everything runs now, bro.
We'll see. We'll see.
It was a little choppy.
I'm certainly interested to see those stats, though. So far, we have seen Make-A-Wish as statistically one of the best teams, despite literally anything. No one expected that. But let's be honest, they're kind of labuns at times. They're showing up. They're showing up pretty good so far. So maybe we see, you know, the number 3 seed win it out easy. Or Vanish underdog win and Madden Wise gets sent back to the lobby.
Under pressure, that's where Vanish, that's where we strive. That's where we thrive. We thrive when under pressure.
I mean, this is certainly your time to show it, as this would be, I think, your first, any of your guys' first league wins, right?
Correct.
Hey, any run in playoffs at this point would be, y'all already got here, you know, everything past this is extra. This is your rookie season.
Real.
You know, I'd like it if we had, you know, that last guy show up, but instead we're going to sit here and just wait that a little annoying amount of time. I don't know. I'm excited. I think there's a lot of talent from both teams here, and I think that there's at minimum some hope for both sides. But imagine the upside when the 14 beats the 3, and yeah, if Madden Wise lose a an 11 seed difference, that's going to be a one hell of a VOD review come the next couple weeks. Still got some. I'm seeing y'all screw it. We got time. We can do predictions early on. Who do we have winning map 1 of Night Haven? If predictions load. Maybe not, because apparently. Hey, there we go. Well, as we wait for this last guy to get in, we can at least do a prediction. You can spend those not so valuable channel points. I'll eventually make something fun. Now, maybe if you get like 25,000 channel points, you come in co-cast if you want.
He joined our Discord, by the way.
Oh my god, finally. It's happening. We have a game. It could be a pretty nasty one, to be fair. Damn. Wait. Okay, console. 0.9 is crazy. Well, folks. So I'm gonna see that body pop up. Let's get the show on the road.
Let's go. Good luck to y'all.
Come on now. You cannot not be excited for these kind of games. Playoffs in the air, all those implications. Everyone is ready. This is what you live for. This is the happiness you love to see. Both teams want to win it. Both teams actively are hoping here to finish it out. Win big, you know. I guarantee you both sides want it more. Let's just see who can actually show the skill. We've seen Sins with easily some of the best trading. Despite their 3 seed, they have a very, very consistent 5. Even their sub roster is relatively deep. I think we can see that a lot, especially if there's a player that has to change out. I don't think we're going to see a big drop off. Vanish have a lot to prove. They don't have anywhere near the prestige that you want for a team like this. They don't have what you need. You're going to need to see a pretty big, I think, change of pace from Vanish if you want to see them win map 1. Where they're not awful, to be fair, but it's a bit of a difference from beating, you know, the 3 seed to beating the 10 and 12s. It's a big step up. You see the bans come out. You see Mira, Cade. Wow, I'm a little bit surprised. You see the Maverick and the Ace. No hard breaching, none of your strong ops, but you still do have the Azami in Clash, as we're going to see it be picked early on. No big surprise. You should expect it. At this point, it is really just, it's how you see things run. At this point, it's more, if you have them, it'd be astonishing if you didn't pick them. And that's saying a lot, as Clash has one of the highest ban rates on PC. On console, she is relatively low, and she is only at around a 65%. A little bit lower, folks. Still strong, but not by any means that is it crazy. Overall, you'd expect a relatively normal Rafters hold. You have the Azami here to give you a lot of space and work around with. You do lose your Mirror and your Cade, so your wall is not going to be as safe. We're going to see the Ashe probably bot to go down below electrical, force that Bandit Trick to move, and that could be a very, very viable strategy. If there's someone that happens to play below to counter the counter, we might see a bit of a chess match unfold. But until then, it looks to be very basic, not anything breaking the world here. In terms of setups, it's about as, you know, middle of the pack as you'd expect. No one's going to try to change the world on their first map, on their first round. These are so influential that you don't want to throw a crazy plan out of the water. You want to throw out like a Cav round 1. If you're attack, maybe. Maybe we see a shield rush every once in a while, but that's really a map 2 thing. Map 1, we're going to see all the teams sort of get back into their zone, get their mojo in, you know, start feeling themselves in that first game. It takes some time for both teams to lock in, and I think we're going to see that very on, as whoever can adjust first is always going to have that advantage. To the adjustment benefits the winner, and let's see who has that adaptation, really. Overall, very basic start. Nothing super crazy out of the water. You're seeing basic ops get in their positioning. You know where that thermite is looking. You know that the Ashe is realistically going to go below here at some point. Forgot to swap, so you're going to Yosef on the buck instead. Bit of a preferential, but you can't afford to lose it. You need to get a buck off. You need to get one of the bandits here. You need to make sure it can't be tricked. Buck, though, doesn't seem to know, and you're immediately going to see the wall keep safe so early on. That's a big loss, as you're going to see a body go down as CAD plays below. I think maybe a little too passive on the playing first floor, but it won't matter. You get your first pick and you have a man down. He fell all the way down. You don't ever really see that, but you're seeing 2 bodies down, and one of them is already on the ground with a 1v5, and apparently you won't go for the res. This is not looking great. A very, very detrimental and pretty bad first start here if you are the side of Madden Wise Sins. You at least grab 1, make sure it isn't a flawless round, get CAD, the dock on the round, and it gives you something to work with, but you'd expect a lot more from the first round of the 3 seed. This is sort of your big, for both of these teams' first debuts into, you know, the spotlight of playoffs, and I think we're certainly going to be able to see a lot of mistakes from both teams, as they're not used to the pressure. They're not used to being able to play the BO3 under how much stress you can get under. You can get in your own head, a lot can happen. You're seeing shots being fired. Okay, I'm not mistaken. Perkin is obviously the one taking the fights here on the Aruni. I don't know what the pre-fire is here. Not really a great pre-fire, but just trying to get some shots, get some pressure. At the end of the day, you have the bodies, all you need. You have the Clash, you have everything to hold that advantage. All you got to do is not throw it away here, and with 35 seconds left, I doubt we're going to see any throwaway from the side of Vanish. That might be the 14 seed, but I think they're one of the more viable seeds in terms of that lower seed bracket. We've seen a lot more from them than most, and I think that they could very well punch way above their weight, and I would not be surprised if they could have been the 8 or the 9 seed here. Sadly, it works out like that sometimes, but instead, Viper Makes it a 4v1, and this one looks all but over as you're just going to sit here and wait, maybe bait a little, talk with your team, as you have a pretty disastrous first round here. Vanish, take the first one. Within all games, you can never truly expect, I think, an outcome within the first 3 rounds, as that is where every single team is going to sort of get back into what they're used to. They're going to get into their rhythm. However, as important as it is to get into your rhythm, this is still a great round here for Vanish. You take it pretty single-handedly. You don't have a lot to worry about. Now you can go down to basement. You can feel very confident in your defense. And now you're going to have to see a lot more from Sins if we want to see any type of any type of even handling of what we saw, at least from Vanish there. They held their numbers well, and when they saw that they had, that 2-player gap, they just played their trades, used their clash to their advantage, and made it almost impossible to win. You're going to have to see Sins at least try to find an entry here off of what is a very gun-heavy team overall. We could certainly see it from Majins. You could see it from even Sanctuaries. I wouldn't be surprised if Yosef comes in here and maybe goes a little bit aggressive despite being the Ram. Slower speed doesn't, really implicate a lot of times in consoles. Teams are willing to, play entry on a bit of a 3-speed or a 2-speed. Or 2-speed or 1-speed, excuse me. Entry isn't really tied to speed as much as it is on PC, where you can almost always see, the Ash is your, entry 95% of the time. On console, there's always a little bit more wiggle room to go around with. There's a little more you can do, and I think that's just different in style of play and a little bit of competitiveness, in my opinion, but it does allow for some fun plays. But we certainly see the Ash this time. You know who's going to entry, and overall, he's a very reliable guy on entry generally. He generally averages right around a +4 for games, which is very, very great, very reliable. I think we can expect a good performance from him, even if the team is struggling a lot. I think he's kind of been their pillar on entry. He's been a reliable person throughout his entire time as a player here. However, CAD might find a very early one, as they might not know it, but they're very close to a fight, and all down to timing here, and Sanctuaries finds the first one. Once again, you're seeing how reliable he can be. Use that game sense, use what you know, and you can snuff out that first pick in something that's essentially untradeable, and you only lose about 20 health in terms of the grand scheme of things, and that's always great to have numbers in your direction. And overall, a missed C4, Bennett whiffing his, but otherwise, it's not really anything crazy so far. I think we're seeing that one pick, and we're just seeing Sins kind of slow down, trust their numbers, trust their strat. They had the plan going into this to at least get the verticality and maybe go for a post plant with their Blackbeard. I think we're going to see that very slowly come to fruition over time. And it's realistically probably going to come up all down the EXO and vending side. But within these, you just got to be careful because you never truly know. However, with a Blackbeard in hand and some good drones, this should be an almost guaranteed win. But instead, you see Herc grabs a bit of a freebie. Brags grabs it right back, gets some damage. Take out Viper, and once again, we're seeing this advantage swing just so fast. Numbers are not safe in a game like this, where I think both teams have shown the aggression. They've shown that they're able to take those numbers back, that advantage back, so fast. That's where, even if it's like a 2v4, you can't really be sure with either of these teams, because we've seen all of these players go off at one point or another. We've seen all of them step up to the occasion and really show out. You at least know what the plan is here, and it's going to be a bit of a pain. You do lose the Blackbeard, or excuse me, you do lose the Clash Shield, and in a 3v1, you can certainly win this, but you're going to have to be almost perfect here if you're Zyro swung. You have a lot you have to do, and you're already put in a pretty hard position to deal with. It's not a lot of flexibility, but you do at least find the down, make it a 2v1. I don't know what the plan is long term, but these flashes are going to help get a drop down. You know what the plan is eventually. It's just, are y'all ready for that? Time-wise, you got to go for the plant now if you want to get it off. You have to be so perfect. Zyro looks like he knows what's going on. He's going to try to stop with the Echo, but it might be too late. Just barely getting it off. 15 seconds left. All you got to do here is have Yosef hold the verticality. He cannot afford to lose it here. It should be a given, and they get the post plant off. This one looks all but over for Zyro. He might be able to find one, but taking over that verticality is going to be so hard in a 2v1 here. It's again, seeing Zyro find that one, but Now he's going to have to try to aggress as fast as he can just to take the space. And with Gridlock's there, he's going to take the damage. He's going to already make it slow down when he cannot afford any slowing. He has to be perfect with his timing here. And Yosef, who can just hold the angle, gets a bit of a free round with a great post plant. Once again, I think we're going to see Sanctuaries really step up on that entry generally. Is he going to maybe get picked in some, you know, some ways that you wouldn't hope? Yes, that happens with every single player. But you got to trust the players here. You got to trust how much Sins can truly be consistent with their 5-man. It's why they're the 3 seed, because they've always shown consistency. Vanish, who I think is still a great seed and a great team overall. The problem is they can't show consistency. We've seen them have too many flashes and then step down on big moments. It's happened time and time again, and that's generally what the issue is. We need to see a consistent step up from them if we want to see any chance of a win in map 1.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being
Because I don't see it being
defused by
given up here unless, you know, something astronomical happens. Overall, looks to be at least relatively similar in terms of the hold from Vanish. You know what you expect, and I think that that's not a big surprise. Overall, both teams have kind of known their strats. They've showed them throughout the season. There hasn't been too much modification. We saw a little bit when Clash started to get more accepted. We saw that especially more from Sins at the very end of the regular season, but otherwise, the stats have stayed regularly similar. We haven't seen a big switch up, and other than the occasional shield change or, you know, maybe roamer change, it's stayed very, very, very close to what it usually is. That also makes it very easy to plan around your opponent here. But we might be able to find a freebie, but Cad, who probably could have had 1 or 2 there, I think shot too early and gave it up. I think Sins is glad to at least have that space and not lose an opponent so early on. And I think they need to try to dominate on the entries here to really show it. They need to show that they have that big category that they can always overtake. Because in terms of trading, Sins is good, but I think we've seen so much better from Vanish. We see that tonight. You might not have a strong category anymore, but already getting damage here. Sid already getting a great, great shot onto him. Cad is all but dead here, limping back, hopefully to Sighton. That roam is diminished unbelievably fast here, which is so much what you'd hope for, where their roaming isn't really a big issue anymore. We could maybe see someone like Zyro, maybe someone like Perk come back up and try to go for a bit of a lurk, but I just don't see it happening here. And I think that you're already going to see a roam taken away with only, you know, a minute's time wasted. I think that is such a great start for Sins, and that's what you need to see consistently. Overall, been a relatively slow start with no real entries, as I say that. Find one found by Elo. First of the round, first the server, and at least a big pick onto Yosef. Lose that verticality. Sadly, all those Rams are already down, and he was more or less a gunner at that point. But Zyro walked himself into a trap here. Or more accurately, set it, and Saints down 3v4, and it's still certainly winnable. You have the shield, you have a lot of your, you know, util that could be useful long term, but you just need to find some big clear here. You cannot let EXO go this uncleared this late. You at least finally find the space, you take out Perk, and that's what you need here. You need to find that space. You found it early on. We see what the plan is going for. Now you got to execute here. You got to get Sid, you got to get Rags all in the right position. Blackbeard here certainly seems to be the man to do all of the work, and the on-site menace, if you will. He at least finds damage onto Viper. You just love to find the pick here. Make it a 3v1. Make it a very hard post plant, but he's going to run away. He's going to make sure it's not an easy one. He's going to make sure it's left down to those last seconds. You can't do that with a C4 in hand for Viper. You have to be so careful where he can maybe walk up on you, get a C4, and it's nowhere near as safe. But a whiff C4, what could have been, will never be, and you might have been able to win that round if you just landed a little bit closer. If you just had that C4 land, and that round could have been yours. Instead, you're going to see Sins win a much-needed round here, get a little bit momentum on that 3-site rotation. Now you're going to see it, obviously see those final bans. I think we're easily going to see the Izami here. I think that has been the driving force and been very useful for them. We can also see the Bandit and try to guarantee those walls. Both are relatively viable. Just up to the teams here. See the Ram, I think, which is a bit of a blunder here. We've seen the Buck being played. We've seen them at least be proficient and want to play it. There's no reason to take away anything like verticality here. It's not worth the ban. I think a Blackbeard would have been smarter. I think a ban that was a little bit more irreplaceable would have been better. But instead, we're going to see something that is easily replaceable. If they want to get the verticality here, they can go the Buck. They can still get that verticality. They can still have flashes, and it's not a big loss in terms of anything except maybe a little bit more time. At the end of the day, I don't think that's enough for a ban. I think it's enough justification. The Zombie, on the other hand, I think is so hard to replace in a situation like this, where the flexibility can give you so much time and so much pressure that is so hard to stop. You can hold something like Raptor so much better when you have the Zombie. You can hold positions that are nearly impossible, patch up verticality from below. You can do a lot when you normally couldn't do anything when you have the Zombie on the board. Now that that's gone, you obviously lose a lot of what you'd hope is like that mid-round and just, improvising of the moment here. I think Ram just isn't really what you'd hope for from a ban from Vanish here, and I think that is probably going to come back to bite them. We're also seeing the Grim brought on here to try to, force back players into harder positions, make executes a little bit easier. Not a crazy pick, as we've seen the side of Grim and generally those ops to try to split the site. Not so uncommonly. They do it at a reasonable amount, and I think there's a reason for that. We also see the Solus, maybe a bit of a blast to the pass. Not certainly the operator she used to be one of the most dominant operators we've ever seen on the defense, but she can still put in her good work. She can still provide some value, and she finds it almost immediately getting Yosef. Now you can't get the below really, all too easily. You still have a Flores, so you can do something here, but now that wall is going to be nowhere near as safe, and you're going to have to try to make a little bit of a makeshift, I think, which is not what you'd want here. You at least find connector wall relatively soon. And now that you have the Ashcon, they might not know it, but all is relatively safe here. I don't know what the plan was for that, but doesn't seem to do much of anything. But Sid might be able to just kind of walk himself in here. Play Sin. I mean, it wouldn't be an easy fight, and you'd still have to fight Perkin here, but Execute looks so close here. You're already seeing damage being taken. This is still very, very winnable. You see Sin immediately grab that pick. A bit of an entry finally taken back, and the wall is already being taken here. This doesn't look great here. Grims are coming in, all of these flashes. You don't feel really safe in any position right now if you're close. Servers isn't a good spot to hold anymore. We still have the Grims online. You still have Nomads you can place for a bit of a flank hold. You see a swing from Elo to try to find something, try to keep that advantage in their direction, but it says instead it's going to be done later by Zyro, immediately taken back by Sanctuaries. And down to a 3v1. It's certainly possible to win for CAD. We've seen it before. We've seen these clutches from him, but it's going to be so hard in a 2v1 here. You need to find the pick early. You cannot let it become a 2v1. You have to find the body now. A swing finds at least one, but down in a situation where time isn't benefiting you, you have to try to make the play here, and you don't have a lot to work with as Grims can buy you time. Everything that you'd hope to have is already being given to you. Maybe a bit of a close Grim, but it probably will be able to hit that planner. At the end of the day, though, this one, unless we see a big throw here from Bragg, should be over. As he can just sit in that corner, make it easy, and find another round gladly taken. At the end of the day, it's you take what you can get. Vanish obviously would hope for more, but at minimum you found a round. You have something to work with. If you can get a 4-2 split, that's not bad at all. A 3-3 would be legendary, and I think a big comeback, but it's a little bit more unexpected. As long as you get at least one more round here, I think there's still a lot of hope if you're Vanish going on to the attack. We've seen a lot better performances from them on the attack. We've seen actually a bit of a skewed entry so far, as we're not seeing the numbers you'd expect from the side of Sins. They're winning the rounds, but they're not getting them off the entries that we usually see from Sins or from Sanctuary, even from Sin, Braggs. These players that are generally pillars of this team in the aggression, we're not seeing that anymore. I think that could be worrying going into the defense, where those players are going to have to, prove themselves on a roam. And yes, they're more consistent on the roam generally, but I just think it's not a good look so far. overall, I mean, Vanish looks so close in stats, and you'll see that a lot of these rounds are just coming down to the last seconds. They're coming down to small, minuscule plays that add up. And that hurts if you're Vanish, because you know you're so close to winning these rounds. You know you're so close to having 2 more rounds than you'd hope for. It would not, like, if they just had a couple of different things changed, they could easily be having the opposite split here. A lot of these are coming down to split seconds, missed C4 throws, missed trades and crosses. And I think that hurts so much more, arguably, is because you know you're close, you're just not there yet. Once again, I think we're seeing at least some flashes, some truly big plays from Vanish here, but they haven't put it all together yet. At least not at the level you'd need to try to beat a team that is the 3 seed. Overall, default takes seems to be the play for Sins. They don't feel like trying to shake up the world. I don't think they need to. They're up 2 rounds here. They have everything they need, and you know, at the worst, they have an even half. But past this, I think there's no reason to really try to shake up the world and go crazy. You don't have to go crazy because you already have what you need. Just go default, play what you know, and work off that. Sanctuaries finds the first. Once again, we're seeing that entry being used here. You at least know who's doing it. Viper found out again by the Blackbeard here, and so far, pretty awful start. Is you see another one go to Blackbeard. 2 picks and a 5v2 looks all but winnable here. This one should be wrapped up as long as we don't see a massive failure on the execute. You do see Sanctuaries go down, so a pretty big body you want to pick up. Zyro finds another, and this at least looks winnable now. You could have had a very simple round, but a couple small errors here is going to cost you, and you're going to make it a 3v1 is Blackbeard going nuclear. Jin, once again, kind of showing why he's always consistent on the shield. He's their shield guy. He's the consistency that you want on the team. You still find one if you're perking. You still have a lot you have to do, though, and not a lot of time to do it. You have about 30 seconds to really do anything, and you have to find 2 bodies here, and neither of them are going to come easy. You don't know where quite yet, and this looks to be a nasty double swing. They're not going to give up either. You have to play perfect, and you cannot afford to passively play this, as Yosef is going to gladly take those 5-3 swing into him. He's going to gladly control the tempo of these fights and just close it out when he needs, and a 4-1 half is already great for Sins. They've gotten the best they could ask for. Past this is all bonus rounds. This is all, we are already up. Because now you get to go onto the easier side for them, the better side for them, and you get to do it already up rounds. Possibly up 4 rounds, which would be huge for a team like this. But at this point, anything is everything for Vanish. They just need to find a little bit more to hang on to. Make sure that that 1 round you had isn't, a fluke. Show that you still have a little bit more in the tank. You still have a little bit more to show, and that, you won't need a timeout possibly. Because as both these teams are able to call 60-second timeouts 1 time per match. And generally, you will not see a lot of console teams use them. You will see them use them more during playoffs, but even then, the amount of teams that use timeouts is right around the 20% mark. So most won't. And I think that speaks to a lot of teams and how they play. A lot of them rely on gun skill. They don't think too much about the strategy. It's very default. There's no reason to call a timeout if you're that. But teams that certainly do call timeouts, I think, are, maybe not the top ones, but I think ones that are at least growing. DME has called timeouts before. Zave. You'll see Voltage, Redemption. A lot of teams that are certainly up in those top tiers have, generally do call timeouts at least occasionally. And then a lot of times you won't even see their timeout rates are high because they don't need to. And like a team like Sins, we have seen them call timeouts when they need to. They just don't need to often. They have one of the best round differentials, and they generally were very, very dominant in the regular season. I mean, I think we've seen that, is we've seen them win such dominant games against teams that are always supposed to be at the top. We've seen them win 7-2 against Voltage. We've seen them win most of the games before even touching overtime or getting close. Once again, though, we're just going to see these default takes. There's no real change here if you are Sins. Why? You already won a round. You got everything you wanted. Play normal. Or in this case, you at least find the first pick under the Blackbeard, which is so nice to have. You have space to give, and now your operator that is actively amazing at forcing these hard choke points is going to be even harder to stop. Because you don't have nades to do it. You don't have all that much utility to really get her out of her position. With the castle sitting behind her, it's even worse. You could certainly waste 2 flashes here and force it, but I just don't think that's what you're hoping for here. And on the other sides of the map, we're starting to see at least a bit of a close-in as Sin is at least finding the map here and or the walls and, you know, getting their basic progressions through, but it's nowhere near as fast as you'd hope. Sanctuary is at least finding his. Is once again, he might be given the disadvantage fight, but that does not matter to a man like him. You can give him the disadvantage fight, and he'll gladly take it every time. We're seeing that. Every time, he will take these harder fights, these fights that wouldn't be logically normal to take. Instead, he's going to take them. This time, he's going to be put down on it as Elo grabs a much-needed pick, keeps the numbers flat as they needed to be in. You still have to deal with Elo, and I think that's the big issue, is you don't have any way to really fight the clash. You can force the flashes, you can force the smokes if you really wanted to, but that's not a great solution. Instead, you just run up with your brags, take out the much-needed operator. It might be at least traded out, and there's still a 2v1 in your hands. Cad could win this, but there's a lot you got to do. You find the 1v1. However, Goyo's fighting you. You're already low. You got to run into a cover position, and it's not in a position you want to be if you're either side. Both are not where they want to be. They're not in a position that they're truly happy with, and Cad could very well swing up here, find it early on, and he's aiming the wrong direction here. He probably could have had a free round win. Instead, it's going to be much closer. Instead, you're going to have to leave it up to these swings that you don't want to take. You don't want to give Cad any reason to try to win this round. You don't want to give any player a good chance of winning this, but instead, you're going to see whiffs from both sides as they don't even know what's going on. In a whiff fest, he's out of bullets. And somehow we end a round and a half in a melee. At least Vanish find all round, certainly being done mostly off the back of that clash. You find something maybe not as pretty as you'd hope, but you at least get the 4-2 half, and there's still, I think, a good chance here if you are Vanish. Sins, that doesn't look so great. You lost what could have been very winnable because you didn't fight with your main guns. Not great. But come back. Hopefully it won't be an issue for you, and we will see. Well, so far at least the stats have sort of skewed back to what we normally see. Sanctuary's 2-0 on the entry. However, we also do see Yosef 0-3. Hey, listen, we all have bad games. We all certainly have our issues. You just hope to have them a little bit less strong as this. Overall, you see surprisingly a little bit more, unlike Vanish, the entries are very split. They're normally very controlled in under 1 or 2 players here for Vanish, but instead you're seeing something a little more unlike them, but more spread around everyone here, and we're seeing the flexes. We're seeing even the soft support get involved. I think that's certainly great, but not what you'd expect from either team, to be fair. I think that we normally see a lot more, you know, usefulness from someone like Brags, who hasn't even touched the board on entry yet. You're seeing everyone is just run even for, you know, the side of... Yeah, knives are all over the place today, but you're seeing relatively all over the place, I think. A team that feels very sporadic right now. And I think that could be the issue, is once again, we're seeing that they'll have rounds where they look so dominant, and then we're seeing not even 1-2 rounds later, they look like they're not even a team that belongs in playoffs. That's always been the issue. That's always what's been the reason they're that 14 seed. They don't have the experience to really hang sometimes. And you'll see that. The inexperience can show so much in their IGLing. They'll fall for tricks. They'll fall for, you know, fighting for a roaming player too long, and he's able to regroup and find a pick. You'll find it where they're not great at isolating picks sometimes, and sometimes they over-aggress. It's not necessarily because they don't have the talent to do it, not because they don't have the skill to, it's because the experience isn't there right now. We're also seeing nothing on the wall. They have to literally just leave it soft, and there's one hell of a risky play for a team that actively is one of the most common teams that loves breaching. Consistently, they would rather die than not have a main wall. And they will gladly fight tooth and nail for every single main wall. Sin in this point is literally being shown as a battering ram, but He's entirely missed by a drone, and it's possible he could walk himself away or just sit in the corner. Both are certainly good options. Perkin finds the first on Imagines, and you'd hope your top right isn't the one to go first, but something happens. Sin somehow survives, and you do at least take your damage as your punishment, but it's still very winnable here. Though you'd certainly, I think, expect more from Sins, at least on the defensive half so far. Once again, I think you're over-swinging, you're giving these players too many chances, you're giving Perkin too many shots, and we're seeing that over-aggression is going to bite them back. In this case, it means 3 picks for 1 man, and all you had to do was sit on a repel. You at least have you do have at least 2 great players here to try to clutch it out and do a 2v4, but you don't ever want to be in this situation in the first place. You don't ever want to be in a case where this is possible, where Viper can just clean it up because he's going to sit on the Maverick holes. They have the numbers, they have the time they want. There is nothing right now that Sin can really hang their hat on so far in the defense. They didn't have a good plan, they didn't have a good execute. You might find a couple, but that isn't really going to catch you. You need to be perfect, and Perkins is going to sit on an annoying angle. Players are just going to hold their angles, hold their trades, and this guy's see a quad from 1 man here, and all he had to do really was just hold his angles. Just play passive and let him swing into him, and huge issue where it's possible we see too much over-aggression from Sins, and they give up so many rounds here. That is certainly possible, and I think it would not surprise me. But you never know. You never do know. Overall stats-wise, at least looking a little bit better as seeing some players come back a little bit more into the limelight. The trades are still not really strong on either side, as we're seeing it still be very neck and neck. Neither team is statistically greatly above the other. Entries are almost deadlocked, trades are almost deadlocked, refrags, traded kills, they're all about equal for each team.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Only big difference is we're seeing a slightly higher cost from the side of Sins and a little bit more EPS. Other than that, this has been a very close game, and I think that is not really surprising if you really know D2 like that. If you know these players, you know these teams, but it does obviously look a little bit strong if you are a little bit unknown and you see the 14 seed hanging well within, a winnable game here against the 3 seed. And that, I think, is just more of, we look at the lower seeds as they're always just not a good team. Where I think sometimes with a team like this, it's just because they're not used to it. They're a rookie to the entirety of the league. All of their players are straight rookies. You're going to see that sometimes. You're going to see that they're not ready for those bright lights early on. They had to adjust to just get into these playoffs. And, if you see the raw talent, if you see the aim they can bring and the chemistry we've seen from them, it's not a big surprise we see them performing at this level right now. But it is also not a surprise that we're seeing some rounds given up to some crazy decisions. Some just straight bad ideas. All within normality, though, as sometimes it happens, sometimes it does not. And what could have been perfect at least means a 2-brow trick is coming in, and I think certainly the beauty of K2-brow is it is not an easy thing to stop. It also means that you might not have the K2-brow trick actually planned, and this means the wall is going to go. You could have had it perfect, but instead Perkins can just probably hold his angle here, and he finds one, grabbing Sin here at least a little bit later than I think we expected, but he's going to find another. We're just swinging into him at this point. This feels like some ranked stuff. He's just sitting on a rappel angle and he's finding 3 a game, 3 a round. This is huge failures, and I think a huge issue right now. How do you let that even happen? Instead, you're going to see Sanctuaries at least tie it back up, try to lessen the wound, but I swear to God, if we see another person swing this man, I'm going to lose it. Like, you already lost what is a total of 7 bodies within 2 rounds to 1 singular position. Don't swing. Jesus. I get that I'm not the greatest T3 coach. I'm only a caster and all, but I feel like there's a simple logic here. If you're going to lose 4 bodies in 1 round, you probably shouldn't send another 2 to swing it. You are an amazing aim team, but that doesn't mean you Jeff Hardy yourself at them. You're not the WWE. Sanctuary certainly thinks he is, though. He's the triple in the round and was the fighting force until you give up another. It feels like they're just flying in freely for Perkins. You are on a 1v2, so it's not easy to win, but you're just giving up bodies at this point. All you had to do is play back. All you had to do was not swing, hold your numbers, but instead, you're going to make it way closer than it needs to be and possibly give up a post point here that you would not want to do. Because the longer you wait, the longer you let it get into a position where it's like this, so much harder to win. I see Perkins gladly going to go down for the plant, hoping for the ace here maybe for them, and you can't afford to give up rounds like this. You cannot afford to give up these big advantages you had, and instead you're going to see yourself just barely scraping by maybe here as you have 30 seconds left in a post plant that could have been never happening if you just held your numbers, didn't swing one man. And now this one looks all but over, as you might be able to pull a miracle out of your ass to save this, but this one looks like a good round here for Vanish, and a bit of a tie-up, and I think a bit of a change in terms of feeling in teams. Is there might be a big seed difference, but I think we're seeing a team that is relatively close neck and neck here, despite that. Those 11 seeds don't seem to matter much, as it's, again, Vanish can look so strong at times. And as long as we don't see Sins catch their number in one of these rounds here, catch some of their weaknesses, this could very well be over. Where even if you let this go close here, if you are Sin, you mentally have to go back with your team in IGL and say, you know, during those 4 minutes during a map break, or 3.5, I think, so ads can run, and y'all don't have ads mid-game. What went wrong? What is going so wrong right now that is causing this many issues? You know, how are we giving up so many rounds to a team that we should have been able to beat 2-0? This looks like it might not even be, you know, a win for Sins, which would be a huge moral loss here. They're predicated on being the better team. They're predicated on thinking they're that alpha team. And if you lose to the 11 seed in your first map, that is huge, huge failures, I think. Or excuse me, I'm pretty sure it's the 14. Forgive me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, they're the 14. Always gonna get that wrong for whatever reason. Confusing playoffs, but overall, you're having a beautiful game here from actually a couple players, mostly Perkin, obviously, as they fed this man so many kills and gave him essentially a free positive game, as he couldn't throw this one if he wanted to. They just gave him the bodies, and we at least know what's going to go on here. We see the operators. We see what the plan is. If I see an Osa, a Maverick, and a Montang on this basement site, I know what's going to come down. We're going to see those Maverick holes. We're probably going to see them just sit here and make it the most annoying holes in the planet, and probably an opening all within time, I suppose, is actually they decide to leave a little gunshot hole instead of a large one. However, Yosef apparently seems to be prepared for it, and you might find a bit of a freebie here as he literally just sits on the angle and gets a free. We do see the Rams going out. We do at least see the verticality being taken. I think not in the order you'd hope for. You'd hope to have, you know, one of your players alive here. You'd hope to have something going, but they just gave up a free pick here. They're going to make that too as a quick little 1-2, and a C4 from Yosef to get him a much needed kill, as he's been a little bit quiet so far in these, you know, first half or so. It's really just a positioning thing with him, or he is always going to be a little bit less of an impact player towards the kills because he just doesn't need to bring that many. Sin is always going to be this player, though, as he is apparently stuck between every single team. All of them want him, and he does not feel safe as everything's all around him. Sanctuaries finds it, and this could be a flawless round here. All you got to do is not throw, and a much better round from Sins is there. We're glad to take something home, try to rear towards that match point, and at least dominate this map one a little bit better. That is what you'd want for, preferably. That is what you'd hope for. God. The fact that we had any knife round, I've seen 2 knife rounds in Champions playoffs where they come down to a knife fight. I can't tell if that's concerning or that's just a console thing. I have never seen a knife fight in my history of playing the entirety of Siege casting in T3 and T4. My point is, I think, just kind of shown again, which is, really? We're going to give up knife fights? Whatever floats your boat, I guess. I don't... You do you. overall, I mean, I think there's certainly still a lot you could hope for. If you are Vanish, if you can at least get a close one here, bring it to, you know, a 7-5, even a 7-4 loss isn't really that bad in the grand scheme of things. As you were the 14 seed and you just lost by only 3 rounds. There's a lot to hope for, and I think that once again, we're seeing the flashes, we're seeing that potential, but it feels like it's like Justin Herbert sometimes, where you see everything in the world that could be there, and then it all kind of falls apart at the very end. They've lost a lot of games in overtime that could have brought them to a much higher seed. We've seen the same thing. And that's always been the issue, and I think that's gonna be the issue, is the consistency has never been there. They've never shown the ability to even handle, you know, the bright lights in that overtime sometimes. It could certainly change, and they could live up to the moment when they need it, but I don't know if I see it. Overall, Sins seem to be doing the exact same thing as before. Is we're up in rounds. We are not going to crazy. We're going to be very default in our holds. We're going to be the peanut butter and jelly. We're going to be the white coffee girl. They're going to be default here. They're going to be very vanilla, if you will. Isn't a bad thing in any cases. I think they'll be glad to just take an easy fight here, and you know, why take this crazy form and try to go crazy when you're up around here? And we've at least seen this high level gameplay so far from Sins. They've had issues where they've given up double triples to one person, and that has caused them half of their, you know, round failures, but you can at least attribute a lot of your success to just consistency in the 5. Always glad to see. Overall, I mean, I think if you can't complain about a map one. I saw so much worse in Champions playoffs. I had to cast a 7-0 and a 7-2, which was the 1 seed against the 16 in DCMB and DME. Dark Matter Esports. Rags finds another one here, and at least coming into their own at the very end here. All you got to do is not swing the hard angles, not swing the pixels. Is for God's sakes, you're not winning them. It's not even a hate as a player. It's just you're swinging a pixel peak. Stop trying to be stomping on that one game against I Love Zim. Just take the easy fights. Play your positioning. You do not need to be the aiming god to win these. Viper at least finds another, and it's kind of done off the back of just swinging like crazy. Like, we cannot just hold our ground. Could have had it all. Could have had it very early, and could have had a very almost guaranteed match point. But instead, you're gonna make it close because you cannot chill out. Aggression seems to be this team's both greatest strength and kryptonite, is they cannot learn to when to shut it off. You never know, though, and Viper at least intends to make it very close, as he claws it somehow right back to a match that is very even here. And parking swinging is always a dangerous thing, as we've seen that they apparently have nothing to do with him, and he can find 2 or 3 per round. But everybody falls off. With 25 seconds left, they know what's going to happen. This is the post plant. This is where you just hide in corners and wait. Probably have a guy go below. This is something that, as much as they hate on the aggression and the over-aggression from Sins, they know what they're doing here. They fall off. They don't give them picks. Take another free one at the very end there, maybe, but there's nothing you can do in this case, and this one looks all but over, as it's a 3v1, and that means match point is upon us. Sins approach the end of map 1. What am I seeing sometimes? It feels like we've seen so much great games and great rounds from both sides, and then we're seeing where they'll just throw 3 bodies at them, and it doesn't make sense why. We're still at least seeing the players that normally do their thing. Sanctuary's 3-0. Started a little bit, a little bit slow on the entries, but that can happen sometimes. He's a little bit more of a defense-oriented player. But 180 EPS, 90% cost, 12-9, and a 3-0 entry is absurd stats, and I'm pretty sure they're glad to have what they can take. Which is, in this case, a strong player and one of your best players being your roamer, which is no real surprise, I think. Don't count out Perkins, though, as he might have been a little bit quiet since those rappel kills, but still is a great player right now. 164 EPS, +5 on the trade differential. 2 clutches and 2 refrags is not a bad stat line at all. In fact, it's actually a pretty amazing one. And I think that the fact that that isn't the better stat line here, that isn't the MVP of the game so far, just speaks to how strong some of these players are. How some of the players' individual performances are so amazing. It also speaks to why this game, I think, is going to be close, because it's going to be the game of flashes. The game of what-ifs and the game of what could have been. Which you hope it would certainly end maybe a little bit less sadly from both sides, where they'd be performing at their full potential or close to, but that happens with rookie teams. You're going to see that, and it's certainly also going to be interesting. What are we going to see from a team that is very much not used to the idea of having a map break, where you're going to have to wait around 3.5 minutes. I think it's 4 minutes if I'm not mistaken that I have it set to. Where you just sit there and you have to keep your team, you know, hot, ready, and, you know, still locked in. A lot of PC teams, and mostly console, but a lot of PC teams aren't even ready for that. Where that map break in between is genuinely just a bit of a wait. It can weigh down on teams. It can certainly throw rounds and throw players. But all in due time, what we see is Sin's at least playing to start very, very slow here. They're not trying to break the world, and they at least find drones for their troubles. They at least find a little bit of value here, and Sanctuaries takes a lot of damage, mostly from his own teammate. Shots into himself was probably not what he was looking for, but still a 5v5 at this point, with this late in the round. As long as we don't see a big roam or lurk, more accurately, from guns, this one could be very, very strongly on the side of Sins. As the longer you see a entry pick not go by, the more benefits a team like Sins, where having 5 bodies in defending that execute is always what you want. Especially when you have all your best players alive. But the first fight, at least to be taken very, very soon, is Sanctuary's in the middle of it all, and he's essentially putting himself as the Jeff Hardy of the NFL. He can find one, but there's so much he's got to do here. There's so much he's got to clear, and he can never truly be safe in a position like this, where everything's coming at him, and in this case, Elo finds 2 in a much-needed pick. Gives them the advantage, gives them a lot to work with, and with a minute left, you'd hope to have an advantage here. Viper, everyone, I think, is kind of waiting for that one moment. In this case, they also need to get rid of the mute jammer, preferably sooner than later, as that's just going to stay there, and that might be the biggest issue, is you don't have a big wall right now, and Sin's going to find another. You cannot let him tie it up. You cannot do it quite yet. I think the bigger issue is you cannot let another body fall, or even more bodies more accurately fall to guns. You need to force him to go quiet here. If he can find 1 or 2, he's going to be such a pain to deal with. You can't see him on drones or on cams. Viper at least plans to take the big numbers here, as site looks all but free, and a post plan is very, very likely here, as the site isn't all too well defended. Guns is just waiting in his corner. I don't know what the plan is here. Instead, you're going to force it to be this crazy post plan, leaving it down to the last seconds as whiffs go out, and what could have been means the early's going to make it very, very close, as everything that could have been close, everything that could have been safe, but unsafe because you couldn't not swing. Sins throw around, vanish, 1 away from overtime. And to be and just to make sure for the audience, this is infinite overtime here, so you cannot just keep going on. It's infinite overtime, win by 2. Which means this could go on for quite a bit of time. If we do see it end there, I guarantee Sins would obviously not prefer that. They'd prefer to end it here and now. But they might not get a choice, as their over-aggression might be the end of them. Or at least make this one very, very close. When in doubt, though, I think that you're still going to see Sanctuaries might not always be the most stable player. He might not even be the best, the best player in the server at times, but he's still going to be consistent on the entry. At this point, I'm pretty sure him going consistent on entry and positive on entry is about as likely as Steelers going above 500. It's at the level where it wouldn't astonish anyone if it was written in a prophecy somewhere 300 years ago. Sanctuaries has to go positive or grossly positive on entry, in this case 4-0. And the Steelers have to go by 500 because Mike Tomlin is always that kind of man. Make it close, but never actually win the playoffs. Whatever, I guess they'll sit at pick 20 for eternity. Better than the Browns, I say. Better than the Browns. not a Browns fan, thank God.
Attackers' objective is to locate a bomb.
We actually do see a bit of an odd, I think, a switch on the roam that I'm not entirely sure is the great switch, but I'm up for it. Sanctuary's on the anchor, on a position here that is much more inside of sight. Give Majins very much glad, I think, taken, where he is fine of just playing, I think, the roam here, and I think this might suit him more. I think he's a little more aggressive as an anchor, and that Sanctuary, we've seen him been able to fall off if he needs to. I think this is a great trade-off here, and I think it's going to lead to a bit of a tone shift in terms of how the roam is dealt with. Because if they deal with it the same way, I think we're going to see picks fly a lot towards Sins. But really, they don't even intend to even try to touch that. As the idea here is just come through, make some Maverick holes, and maybe find something here or there. The question is, what is that really going to bring you? As I don't know what it is, because you still got to take the wall. Sitting on an angle here like this isn't going to win you a game. You at least find the first pick is Braggs swings way too aggressively when a round matters way too much. And CAD somehow TKs to narrow the advantage. I'm gonna be honest, that was not really the expected outcome, but it is what it is.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
You still at least have a relatively strong group of people alive. You still have the people that we've seen been able to clutch. And I think they'd gladly take it here. Is bringing this to overtime would be pretty detrimental, and I think be a very, very large Vanish advantage, as we've seen them fare much better in overtime. In general. In generals is the big thing, and Yosef apparently seems to be the force on the stairs, which you find one and then you get traded out. That Vanish stays as it is, and seems that it's not going to be given up anytime soon, where you're going to see flashes come out. You're going to see all the pressure come towards one man. The man on the roam came back to site, and he's now got to be the detrimental player for Vanish or be the winning factor. Sin at least finds one where if you just fall off here, this would be the greatest thing you could ask for. But instead, you might over-aggress. You might give him picks. Oh, thank God. We're also seeing finally, we see Elo come off of his angle upstairs and come over to, sort of help on the actual site execute. As I don't have a lot of time to be, even use here. Is 30 seconds left on the clock, and you cannot afford to do this. You're seeing Goyos come out. You're seeing a lot of the delay already there. You either have to run through a Goyo or go all the way around here. It isn't looking strong. You got to make a dash through a Goyo if you want to even have a chance at a plant. And you have 10 seconds left. This one should be all but over, as you just not have to swing. That's always been a Sin's issue, but this one looks to be easily won, as you find one, and Elo can't do much here. He doesn't have the diffuser, and this one is ended. Sins end it in regulation, 7-5. So not the rounds and the games you were hoping for, but they found it in the end. See a strong entry, at least taken from Perkins. CAD. Sanctuary being the MVP, though. 166 EPS, 4-0 on the entry. Neutral on trades with a 12-11 KD. That'll be all for now as we go to a break.
This is Sprays, and this is the Counting Cards Podcast Week 1. Today we have with us Brian from Wild Boys.
Hello.
Leader. Let's start simple, though. Who are you?
My name's Brian. I am the CEO/chairman of the Wild Boys organization /LLC.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let's look to the past.
Okay.
So, how did you start the org? How did it come to be?
How did I start the org? Well, funny enough, one day I was sitting there with a group of friends at this place called Twin Peaks, and one of my friends mentioned Jinxie, and I was like, Jinxie, who the fuck is that? So they pulled up his Twitch, and we were watching him, and he said something about like a $50,000 game. I was like, what? There's no way. So me going into Discord and going around, I went through the main R6 server on Discord, and then I got recruited by forgot what org it was, but some small org where me, Knight, and Toxic, or when we get farther into the podcast, they'll become relevant, recruited me to go play with them. Well, we joined this org together, and we were sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Learning on how leagues work, on who runs things. I was like, "I want to do this." So one day, I was like, "Yo, Knight, Toxic, if I make an organization, will you guys join?" And they were like, "Hell yeah!" And now that's the beginning of Wild Boys right there.
How many teams do you have in the beginning?
Okay, so in the very beginning of Wild Boys, I didn't understand on how necessarily comp worked. I thought as if I get 5 players, I have a team. I didn't understand that you had to have the best of the best, or they all had to be champ. So me, Knight, and Toxic decided to make 23 teams in Wild Boys when we first started. And half the team were coppers, half were like silvers, a couple plats. I think we had 1 diamond for 23 teams. And then, yeah, and then through then, we became more knowledgeable in the comp scene. And now, today, I'm pretty sure we have 12 teams.
So to also go off of that, is there like one player or a specific player or specific team that helped you gain popularity?
Yes, so, are you guys familiar with the guy named Cosmic?
A little.
Yes.
Okay. So, Cosmic, one day, I was sitting there on Wild Boys posting looking for org/players. I was going, "Hey, join Wild Boys. We're this and that." Well, Cosmic reached out, and his team at the time was called Code Black, and they were, in my opinion, probably one of the best teams in comp at the time. And Cosmic was like, "Hey, I have a really good team looking for an org. I'm willing to help get you started and etc." So I was like, "Shit, help me out." Well, Cosmic, me, Knight, and Toxic all got in a VC, and we talked, and next thing later, Code Black joined Wild Boys, and from there, we took off like a rocket ship. I think we went from 50 people in our Discord server to 500 in a matter of 2 months. So when I say we skyrocketed, it was very fast.
All right.
Crazy.
And so you kind of contribute your success a little bit to picking up Code Black and all that, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
All
Without
right,
Cosmic, we would have had a very rough start. Absolutely, 100%.
All right.
Well, we might have a handful of issues, obviously, right now, with lagging being lagging. But we're at least getting ourselves sort of situated and ready for, that final, or hopefully not final map 2, but you never know with these teams. Let's see the players. As everything has been laggy tonight. When in doubt, sometimes trust it to be kind of just lag. Let's see here. Orange here. There we go. We got everything set up and ready. Just gotta wait for these teams and we're good to go. Overall, at least what you'd hope for from a map 1, keeping it close, keeping it at least relatively, neck and neck, and that's all you can really hope for in a game like this where, I think we weren't even expecting that. A 7-5 win from the 14 seed, you'll take it. You'll take what you can get. You'll take a very a pretty amazing stat line all in all from the players here. Seeing a lot of great individual performances. Perkin obviously somehow having 4 refrags in 1 singular map. Amazing from him so far, and I think we're certainly seeing a lot of players start to at least come into themselves, especially in that last half. There's a lot to look forward to. That's obviously what you'd hope for, and the end of the day, that's the biggest thing, is you want to see these close games. You want to see it be these neck and neck games. You don't want to see a beatdown. So take what you can get. In this case, I will take my win in regulation as, at least it was a close one, folks. It was not the DCMB game where I watched an entire team have 2 rounds in a total of 2 maps. As much as I prefer to not go on a tech pause, it seems that there has been tech issues once again. And for a little bit of the time being, we're going to go on a tech pause just to give them a little more time. At least in terms of everything, you can at least hope for another close map 2 here. And overall, I mean, you get what you get what you'd expect, and I think this is at least above that, you know, which is as good as you can hope for. It was a good, close game all the way through, and you cannot expect that a lot of times with teams and players. So take what you can get. In this case, you will take a 7-5. Sins at least come out on top, but a lot closer than I think a lot we're expecting. Where we expected a game that would have been, you know, expected to be more of a beatdown, something that we should see, you know, this would be a one and done, this one would feel over after the first map, but we still see a lot of life in the team, and I think that's a big surprise. I think Vanish have a lot to hang on to, which is the best thing to see. We're seeing the bans come out very, very regular for layer. Mira and Clash are the top bans, only behind Cade. Bit of a surprise, as you don't normally see him as like that crazy limelight, but in that third ban, you'll see him quite a bit, especially in that, sometimes even that second one. But the Ram is also not exactly a crazy pick. Ace is almost default at this point for Console Pro League, as they love banning the Ace and making hard reach hard. Not a big surprise. They want to get rid of the strongest one, but in my opinion, a bit of a waste of a ban. That's up to the person, though. But you're at least seeing a team that at least feels reinvigorated, I think. That's all you can hope for, is a team that at least looks fun to watch. It would hurt more if we're just going to see a team that is deadly, you know, dead inside and it's an over game. But a 7-5 loss is not bad. There's still a lot you can come out from that, and really in those like 4 minutes that were gone, think together and put something, you know, all together. It would not surprise me if we do see that, where we see Vanish are able to kind of use that time in between those 4 minutes to reinvigorate themselves, get back together, regroup, and come into this next map strong, possibly winning 2 rounds in a row. That wouldn't be crazy to me. Am I a madman? Maybe, maybe not, but that's all down to the player and the person. As I generally love myself some comebacks. I love myself some underdog stories, but in the end, who does not, man? Who is going to say, I don't want to see a comeback? I think that'd be more surprising. Oh, a little bit of a lag spike there. Should be fine, but overall, the stats were certainly showing of your top players being your top players, Sanctuaries, and Perkins being those for both teams, respectively. And the at least map 1 MVP being the side of Sins. I personally see Sanctuaries taking that spot. I think it was a lot more valuable overall, and I think he showed that. Well, let's see if I can put up a prediction real quick. Who's going to win map 1? 2, excuse me. 5 minutes, start prediction, and boom, prediction is up. Just in time for bans, as y'all are a little bit behind, just for delay's sake. Our first pick found by Viper, and apparently he's going to find 2 here as everything came towards him, yet he still is at minimum going to find the advantage that they so gladly take. Still fights me coming out from Yosef here as he hopes to at least find another and bring it back to an even game, but he's not going to find it easy as these zombies are going to make it slow. This team is going to make it slow. Vanish have the numbers, and they're not going to give it up. They're going to make you fight tooth and nail for everything they take. So again, I think the start you'd wanted to see if you're a Vanish fan, the start you want to see if you want to see a close game. You don't want to see a team like Sins dominate. You're still going to see them find 1. The aggression sometimes is just going to be unmatched from both players, but Yosef finds 2, and despite being low, he's still going to find value every time. All 3 are grouped up here. A C4 or anything, even a good shotgun shot here would do everything. All you need is a good spot from Legion, and he could certainly cause the chaos to see if he gets close. It's all over. Everything's going to be close in a 2v1 here. You have to be perfect. If you're ELO, you cannot afford to lose this here. You want to get these early rounds. You want to show out that you can handle the pressure. You can handle these 2v1s, but Yosef plans to go big instead, and Sins find the first one. I mean, you can't do much more dominant than a 3-0 start from your flex player. That is about as good as you could ask for from any team. And you just did that on a round that mattered so much against a team that was putting up a much bigger fight than I think anyone expected. That's a huge thing to do, though, is you want to get this early momentum. If you're Sins, you want to end it now. You do not want to give them more time than possible. You don't want to give them anything. The more you can put Vanish down in the ground, the more you can get them worse and worse and worse is what you want. You don't want to give anything to them. Not a hate on the players, but it's just how it is.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Overall, though, it seems that the plan is very default despite the loss. Not really any big changes. You do see the Boss G, which is a little bit more less used nowadays after the nerf not all too long ago, but Vigil's still a very strong operator. You still see what I'm assuming is going to be a double roam here, and it would not surprise me at all if we see Perkin and Guns on the roam here, and Sight maybe a little bit left unprotected. End of the day, though, it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, Vanish still have, I think, a very strong roster, and as long as they don't let this game get away from them, as long as they at least get a round here in this 3-round split, I think we're still going to see a very strong one from them. It's a strong performance, win or lose. However, a win would not surprise me, as I think Vanish got it in them. I think they are, despite the lower seed, still a great team. I think what you'll see is that both these teams are still rookies to this space. They're not used to League. They're not used to how long these games can be drawn out, how much pressure can be on you compared to tournaments at times. However, seeing Sanctuary obviously take the aggression here, is he doesn't seem to be worried about anything at all, and he's going to find at least the first entry there. And within good timing too, is this means essentially all of verticality and the hatch is already yours, and we've only seen 45 seconds off the clock. Huge pace change, I think a much needed one on the side of Sins, where they're showing a lot more aggression. They're playing a lot more into what we know them as. Promise also makes it hard as hell to win sometimes, right? Also means that a wall opening shouldn't be all too surprising, as it feels like after that first round, they kind of saw how slow they were being, and they said, we won, but let's turn it up. Let's turn it up a little bit more. Let's show them what we're really known for. That plans to be the, at least the main thing is they're going to go as crazy as they can. They're going to immediately try to get the defuse down, and they're probably going to get it down here, and this means a post plant that is not pretty in a 5v3. You at least make it closer. You at least find one, but that isn't really going to matter too much, as it's a 2v4, and those picks are traded right back. You might find one, at least if you're perking, but you still have a lot of picks you got to take. You still have a body you got to make up. Now, too, just to even get an even half, and you might find one to the Goyo, but 25 seconds left, and you don't have a lot to work with here. You have a pistol in hand, and that's almost even worse, is they're not going to give you the, the closeness here to even use your shotgun. You're going to have to try to take fights above you and, horizontally long-wise. with the with a pistol. You might find one, but the person's above. This one should be over, as you can't do anything, and you can pad those stats all you want, but Sins are going to come out 2-0, and a great start for them. Overall, though, at least the hope you'd want, but I mean, I want to see at least some fight from Vanish. I think that they have it in them, despite their wacky seed placement. And I think that it's not really a hate on them if they lose here, and I think it's not really a big surprising thing either. They have shown at minimum that they're a rookie team. They still have the flashes there, but give them time in D2, give them time in, you know, not in the big leagues yet to develop and learn how to play League, learn how to handle the pressure. And we could very well see them, you know, in a season or two, or maybe even next season as a really strong, mature team. But I think that sometimes you're going to see that where the bright lights might be too much just for today. Not a hate on the team, just how it is sometimes. At the end of the day, this is still a very close game statistically, and I think that's the big surprising thing here is, yes, you're seeing these rounds go by. You're seeing, you know, at least a very good start here from Sins, but they're not exactly winning single-handedly in the stat department. Trades are still being relatively well done, and so is the entry from the side of Vanish, despite their 2-0 down. I think sometimes that's just how it runs, and we're at least seeing the value there. We're at least seeing what could be. I think the biggest thing is, you know, how do we see a change? How do we see a team like Vanish adapt when they have those 4 minutes to chill and they have, you know, everything on the line here? With the 14 seed here, they're going against easily one of the strongest seeds. And if they can beat the team here, they can at least have a very, very strong start, I think. And they could also, if it wouldn't surprise me if they go far, they could easily go past, you know, round 2, 3 here, maybe even get to semifinals. I think that's their ceiling as of right now as a semifinal team, but that's still a great start for a rookie team if they can get there. First, they got to win here and win now, which is going to be the much harder thing in my opinion. A team like Sins isn't really going to make it easy to win, and I think that's the big thing is you have to take such a hard win here. You have to beat a team that is way, way punching above themselves. Sins, I think, is much better than a lot of these D2 teams, and we're seeing that sometimes. And I think that it doesn't make it easy, as you're going to have to try to fight a team that feels essentially a D1 team at this point. I don't think they're ready, but the Vanish can at least show out now. They can show when they need to. They have a lot coming towards them, though, as you still have the Blackbeard coming. You still have every single piece of it. This is kind of a funny joke. But you at least find the first one from Viper. Vanish showing some fight, but everything is on a door. Yosef finds one, finds two. He seems to be the gap player. He seems to be the one to be able to kind of clear the space, make the way for his team. As long as you don't throw the bodies here. It's not always. It's not over till it's over. As you can see a C4 come out. You can see a kill here as you find at least two. You're going to have to see Blackbeard do everything, but instead Zyro gets the melee kill, and once again, what looked to be an impossible win, not so impossible anymore. As this game, once again, is right back into impossible anything. It would not surprise me if we see an overtime or a map 3 at all. I don't know if we'll see a win. That seems like a lot, but don't underrate my team not even my team. Don't even underrate any team like that, because they aren't my team. I don't know why I'm saying that. Like, we've shown at least something. They've shown the ability to hang at this level. You see the Grim and the Azami come off. Not a real big surprise over these maps, over the second half of Nighthaven and this so far of Lair. We're seeing how much Grim can be useful to section off pieces of the attack or defense and make it easier for the attack to clear it. Grim is always going to be useful for that. He's going to be useful for clearing these hard power positions. No surprise they get rid of him here. Azami, I would certainly say it's strong, but I don't know if it's worth a full ban here. Even in a situation where it can be good, I just don't think it's worth it.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Certainly a bit odd in my opinion, but it's all down to whatever. You just hope to find, you know, at least another round here. If you are Vanish, you want to at least get a 4-2 half. But if you're Sins, even if they go down 4-2 here, or even 5-1, obviously can't happen, but I think they found the minimum if you're Sins, and at this point you are looking for just above and beyond. 3-3 is obviously very blah. If you get that, no one's going to care. It's going to be very, you did what you did half. If you get a 4-2 or a 5-1, though, that is looking great going into a side that you're not really used to. We don't generally see a lot of, you know, layer defense from them. Sins isn't that commonly showing of it. Isn't a bad thing, but there's a lot of unprovenness with a team like this on layer, where they have very, very little plays and very, very little data on them about it. And that could also lead to a team that is scarily strong because we don't know much about them, or a team that isn't really practicing their reps. They're not really there for, you know, ready for, I think, maybe a playoff level defense on layer. Oh. There we are. It's again, I think, a very slow start, and I think that's just a product of how these teams can play at times where, yes, they're aggressive, but they also can slow down for almost 15 seconds, you know, and they can just have this calm before the storm, where we see a lot of planning, a lot of, you know, waiting for that one moment, for that one gap to come together, and then suddenly it all comes, you know, it all pieces together, and we see Sins flash and move at an incredible pace. Until that point, we can see a lot of slowing traditional gameplay from them. I think that's what makes them a little bit harder to defeat than most teams would expect, is they're a bit of a two-way. They play a very traditional, slower style of Siege. The thing is, they're also very fine if they see a gap play with entirely changing up the plan and punching into that gap as hard as they can. We've seen it before, and I think we could very well see it again. Overall, I mean, I think it's all just going to come down to what do we see from these shields in the front line. Both of them siding filtration and looking to go into the B site, but it's not going to be an easy fight in here. I think we're going to see, you could at least see a lot of C4s come in. You could at least see a lot of pressure towards them, and even if you have your shields to protect you, it's not an easy fight by any means. C4 goes out, and just right above his head is, you do see the first pick go the way. A Vanish traded right back by Yosef. Making sure to keep it close. I think that both teams are so great at trading, so great at keeping those numbers very even, is we're not generally seeing big swings more than like 2. Even then, those swings where it's 2 players, or even 2 players at all, is pretty rare. Cad Guns at least finds one to give themselves the advantage, gets Yosef, but it's kind of seeing those numbers come right back to normal as Jin finds another. It feels like this very flippy-floppy 1-2, and like no team can truly ever gain that big advantage they'd hope for. Birkin at least grabs the advantage again, but seems like there's not a trade incoming for the side of Sins, and the defuse in the plant doesn't look anywhere near as safe now, as your main shield guy can't really focus on it, and this is a 1v3, and you're above at this point. You have 15 seconds to do everything, and you don't have anything to work with. This one should be over, as you might be able to find 1 or 2 maybe, but you're not finding all 3, and you see at least an even start so far for Vanishes, and no team really is pulling ahead so far. Excellent predictions. Wow. 1 prediction on Sins. Nothing on Vanish. Am I hating? No, I'm not. But like, I'm just saying. Yeah, I think there's still a lot of fight in a team left like this, and I think underrating them here might be a bit of a surprising thing to do. Maybe it's just a viewing of how I use teams sometimes, but I think there's still a lot in here from the side of Vanish. I think there's still a lot left in the tank, and I don't know if they have a win in them at this point, but I could see 6, 7, 8, 9, you know, rounds more. I could see it coming to overtime. I could see an infinite overtime going relatively far too. I don't know if they're going to win that, but I don't see a map 3 is entirely out of the cards quite yet. Not from Vanish. I think they've shown that they have that level to hang. Once again, it seems that it's going to come down to a what if. We've shown that we've seen the flashes in rounds. We've seen their level of play. It's just, can you keep it up? And so far, the answer has been no, not enough. In crucial rounds, they'll make those minute mistakes that cost them everything. And it sucks to see is you're so close, but you haven't shown you're enough yet. And that's arguably worse for Vanish, where they know they're right there. Just this one's going to come down to, the smallest of things. It's going to come down to how well can you hold a trade. It's going to come down to how well do you play a shield and, again, pressure. Do you fall off at the right time here? It's going to come down to things that can relatively be so minute to think of, where it can, it's maybe half a second of a decision, or, just holding an angle for 5 more seconds can mean everything. Overall, we at least see the plan, and a pretty aggressive one of that is the plant might go down pretty early here, especially if they clear out Viper, but he's going to be the big force stopping them, at least as of right now. Bit of a, they got the wall, but until then, this is going to be, I think, the pause before the storm, as everyone's getting ready and trying to find themselves in this position. That's all you want to do. You want to find that safety. You want to find that plan, and once you see it go all 100% in, as we're seeing immediately the up front here being taken over by the Blackbeard, is stopping Jin seems to be a 2-person job, and there's not a lot that you can do at this point unless Zai finds it, but not today. Instead, we're going to see 2 bodies down for Vanish, and they need to find this round here, I think, to at least try to get the even half. But this one looks almost impossible to win, as you see bodies go out. And this is a 5v1 here. Almost a perfect round, possibly. As Vanish need to have a miracle in the making, but you might at least get one. But Sins look all too strong right now, and doesn't feel like the side of Vanish is ready for that. They're not ready for the bright lights quite yet. You can at least find yourself an even half if you're lucky. You can at least find yourself, that equal that you'd hope for, but it's still a lot you got to work with here. You'd hope for a 4-2 if you're on the defense here on layer, where it's generally a very defender-sided map. Instead, you're going to make it very close. You're going to make it a very iffy game, which is something you certainly do not want to see, I think, with a team like Sins. You don't want to give them the even half, where then they can go on the defense. Then they can roam crazy. They can play their very structured stats and these roam-heavy ideas so perfectly on a map like Lair. We haven't seen them a lot on Lair. That is true. But from what we have seen, it has also looked very good, and it's looked very roam-heavy, which we've already seen Vanish struggle with at times. They've struggled with dealing with the roams in the big moments. Possibly see that come back to bite them, as the core skill of sometimes roam clearing just might not be there yet, I think, in a team that roams so much. It might not matter if we see Sins go up 2-0, or at least 2-0 in these last 2 rounds, and have a 4-2 at the half, where that's not a guaranteed win, but you have so much space there to play around with. You have so much you can do, and I already expect, I think, a 4-2 half at minimum from a team like Sins on that defense, and it's going to be a scary thing to beat if you are Vanish, where I think the space that you have for error is going to become ever so slim in a round like this. The amount of things that you can genuinely afford to lose, the amount of bodies and even damage you can afford to give up, space, it's all going to come to a head, and I think it's all going to be because these teams are close, but Sins have looked better. There's a reason there's that higher seed. They might both be rookie teams, but I think they're at different levels. Vanish is a developing rookie team. They're like the, I don't know, you're rookies. They're like general rookies. But I think we're seeing a bit more of a better performance, a bit more out of the blue and special performance from the side of Sins as a rookie team. At least find the first pick here. If you are Vanish, get you something on the board, and you'll take it when you can get it. Getting Sanctuaries, that main entry out of here, but I just don't think the round is quite safe yet. If you find 2, we have a different equation here. We have a different answer there, I think, where that could be the end. I think you're determining a lot here on how much we can see movement here from MaW. Jin's essentially the biggest impactful force here, where he has to do a little bit of everything here if he wants to win this. He has to kind of be the entry, the gap, and the truly, I think, player that is kind of doing it all. Problem is that he missed the EMP, which means he isn't able to really walk up there unless he wants to look around, in which case he might not have the time for that. He made it to 3v4, but still a lot you got to do. Sin might find damage, but he's not going to find the so crucial pick here. He's not going to find what he was looking for, and now it's still going to have that one-player advantage winding down where, as we approach the execute, you really don't want to go down in bodies where you're already going to be down one man as they're planning. You don't want to try to approach this in a 2v4 during the execute. That looks so hard to deal with. Sin at least finds one to at least try to bring it back to even numbers, but once again, I think it's going to come down to how fast can they get an execute down. How fast can you see a plant be successfully done here? And you ran it too fast, you gave Perkin too much time, and he'll gladly take his pick as he takes a much needed one. In a 1v3, the plan is no longer possible. You're going to have to win this one out straight on at least eliminations here, and it doesn't give you a lot to work with here. You have to be almost perfect. You will at least catch one here. You could possibly catch a couple as the gap might not be expected, but a whiff here. Jins could have had it all, could have had himself a 1v1, but instead, he's going to have to approach the unknown here as he doesn't even know really where they are yet. With 15 seconds left, this looks possible to win, but they're going to run away. They're going to play the hard angle to get, and he's not going to find either as Vanish make it an even half. Once again, I think we're seeing we can see so much reliability from a team like Sins. We can see so much that we know what they are, but Vanish are so up and down. You'll see some rounds where they truly dominate the other team. Next round, they look like they can't even handle, the 16 seed. I think that's certainly just how these teams and how Vanish has to overcome is they have to prove some consistency here. You can't afford to have inconsistency in a game where this is dire. This is loser, win or go home. Where this would be your first big playoff win. This would be your only playoff win so far, and you are the most unproven team in playoffs. Everyone on the list, we know what they are. Even if you're the 16 seed, we knew what they were supposed to be. They were not going to be a team that was going to win. They were never there. A team like Vanish very well could have the upside to be a top 10, a top 10 team, a top 5 team. But they need to prove that. They need to prove that they can even hang there. Which is, once again, such a hard thing to do. But I would not give up quite yet if you are a Vanish fan. A 3-3 half is still a hell of a half to have, and you still have what you'd hope for. It's maybe just not in the time you'd want it. The time in the order is, you'd say.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
And finally, we see it. A strat first popularized by the Koreans. If you did not know, PSG talent Fabian himself made this one up, where he brought into the meta the also arguably very annoying here meta at Tachanka. One of the very few spots he is even viable to use, but it's actually very amazing here on a site like this, where I think that he can thrive because he can shoot through the vents, he can shoot through these angles that are nearly impossible to stop, and it's actually relatively good. I would not say that it could, it could certainly fail, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, but if you play it right, you can be so annoying here.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse.
If you know the lineups, you can essentially chuck fire from almost anywhere that's safe and cover the site, and annoying things to do. Because there's so many hallways you need. You can chuck fire in almost every hallway here from a one-way that can be held from sight. Which is certainly a helpful thing to know. If they have the lineup here, this one might be a huge play, but you never know quite yet. Once again, that slow start I think we expect to see from both teams, where they just want to get their bearing. We're not going to see, even if they have the shields on board, they're not going to see the shield rush. They'll take their pick. In this case, will not go their way. Sanctuary finds the first one onto the Maverick. He's not going to give himself up to a Maverick hole. He's going to take that pick and figure it out. We have an audio cutout there, my bad. Internet has not been the gloriousness you'd hope for. You at least know where the player is. You know that you're dealing with that Blackbeard, but I think that isn't going to help. However, Bragg seems to find it anyways. a whiff C4 saved by players kind of just playing in these weird spots. Sanctuaries finds another, and this one looks to be a beautiful round. A lot shown here, and a flawless one at that. Madden-wise, Sins looking much better on the defensive half. Picks-wise, I would not be surprised if we see another shield. I think Blackbeard is going to be the big mainstay until we see the last couple of bans come out. We see how common it is. How we just know that at this point it feels very set. You're going to expect the Blackbeard, and it's not really because there's anything wrong with any other shield. It's because these teams just feel very safe in it. Overall, I mean, it's just kind of been slow. We've seen these weird, very odd starts to rounds where even if they have the entry pick, they won't aggress. They won't even try to go aggressive here. They won't even aggress for an isolation pick. You'll just see these random spurts of aggression once everything kind of falls into place for the execute. But both teams feel like it's a big dance of neither one wants to be the one to aggress and fail. So I think they're waiting too long. Obviously, that's working better for one team here, and I think that Sins has kind of shown that, but it doesn't mean that Vanish certainly can't change in this, defensive half, or defensive half for Sins. Now, what is going on here? There we go. Much better. So think about your clue. Honestly, I think every single caster has at one point listened to music in the background while casting. For me, it happens to be Nelly and some Justin Timberlake. A little bit odd, but why not take some pop music in there, I guess, is what I'll say. Although, once again, this very slow start that I feel like we've become accustomed to from both sides, where the slowness is essentially what we know. We know what these teams are. We also know that the wall is going, and this means time to cover that plant. Do they have the verticality? I don't know quite yet. We haven't seen a lot of verticality being taken. So it looks like this one could be a very well, stopped plant in its track. There looks to be nothing really pushing them, and Sin finds the first one. Certainly not a lot later than expected from these teams, but better late than never. He also sees the feet here, and he gets a little bit of damage, but I don't think he's going to get too much, as it's a hard shot in itself. And neither team has just really shown, I think, their full kit yet, and I think it's the odd thing is, I think we've seen more shields, we've seen the clash, we've seen so much more from both sides in terms of a strat book, but it feels so much less deep. It feels very shallow in a map like Lair, which surprised me that it surprised me even more that this was a picked map. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, as you have to clean it up here in a 5v2 once again. This looks strong here as long as you don't give a pick. As long as we see Yosef stay alive, this one should be a done deal as a 5v2 with a minute left. This does not look anything worth winning, and looks almost impossible to throw if you hold your numbers right. In a 5v1, this one is almost over, as you might be able to at least make it look a little better, but I'm not going to find much, as you at least find one pick here to stop a flawless again, but 30 seconds left. You're being closed in on, and the team that I think everyone expected to be so much stronger, had such a great performance early on, so far crumbled in their attacking side. Okay, my mic thing just fell out. Hey, there we go. I thought my mic just fell out. That would have been a little bit less important. A little bit unhelpful. But a 5-3, and this one looks to be looming over maybe for a 2-0 for Sins. We do see them go the bit of the odd side of armory. Maintenance is probably that basement side is allergic, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure why. It's not a bad site for them. They don't play it often, but they have some good. They have 3 rounds played there, and 2 of those are wins. So I don't know why. It feels a little bit odd to take that away. Take away what is a relatively good site. Oh my god, stats-wise, statistically, but maybe they got a better plan in mind. Maybe they think that this side of Vanish might be very good on basement, avoiding what could be a great site for them, and it would not surprise me. It would also not surprise me at all if we see the reason that they're doing this is because the verticality so far has been a weak in the world. I just don't know why it's doing that there. Huh. Textures can be very, very odd in Siege sometimes. But, I mean, you still have 2 rounds to work with here. If you are Sins, you have a lot you can play around with, even if you do lose your 2 Azamis early on. But you have a rat player in Sanctuaries, normally the aggressive one, deciding to play a very passive role here. Just find Zyro with the first, and maybe not the player you'd expect here, as he's been relatively quiet on entry because he's not really an entry player, but hey, gladly I think there's going to be a committee approach from this team. I'll be glad to take what they can get. Actually, despite that, we've seen a much better entry so far from Vanish, where they have the entries, they just can't close it out. 2-0 from Perk, 2-0 from Purple. Oh, sorry, Viper. And, I mean, 1-0 from the side of Zyro. It's just, it feels like the entries are all there. It's just, it's not really being all put together there. The trades aren't being done as well as they need. Which does make sense, to be fair, as Sins is known as a relatively great trading team. They're not going to break the world with their trades, but they're good at what they do. Overall, I mean, it looks to at least be a great start, and Sanctuary is certainly getting a hell of a lot of damage. Question is he really willing to aggress it here? If he does, he might be rewarded with quite a bit of damage here, even a kill if he's lucky, but it's not going to be an easy one, and with a down coming out, unless they have a C4 plan in mind, this one seems all but over, as maybe they C4 him, but they have to do nothing of the sort, as Yosef does not think so far ahead. Or maybe they don't want to give up the vert. That would also be a very viable reason. And they also leave the patch just open, and Perkin finds a big one there. 9-5 on the game so far. Make that 10-5, excuse me, and a 2 KD top of the server. About to be more closely in Sin in a 2v1 with not a lot he can do here with a Blackbeard in hand. All is winnable, but this one's not looking great, as there's not a lot given up yet. Unless you plan to drop the hatch here and try to just straight brute force it, which certainly can work, but I would expect a little bit different. A drop from below too. There seems to be a pretty good plan here in terms of Vanish, and at least a much better upstep is this one. Yeah, Sins are winning 5-3, but this should probably be 5-4 here, as this one is all but over, and Vanish start to claw it back a little bit by bit, making sure we have a close one, but once again, I think it's so scary where... Scary enough, apparently, that they're taking a timeout here. In this timeout, let's talk about those stats, talk about the players, and also a very smart decision by the side of Sins. A little bit less normal and less used in console, where you can ice teams and ice players if you during one of these ban phases, normally during the half change, you can ice a team with your timeout for like 2 minutes straight. It is amazing to do, and I do it in T3 all the time as a coach. Stats wise though, we're seeing the entries lean so heavily towards Vanish, it looks hilariously comical. Doesn't seem to matter though, as we're seeing a +12 from the side of Yosef. He is gladly willing to take every single bit that they give him, and he plans to be the main fighting force for this team. Is who needs anyone else when you have one man to go positive and all? Also 3 refrags, 1 traded kill, and 8-5 at that. You still have Jin going 11-7, not a bad stat line by any means, and overall, this game has been very, very based on outside the objective, but despite that, we see both teams each have 3 kills on the objective. We also see one player with 100% cost, no one else, and no one's even close. That is Mr. Ma Jins himself. As this timeout looms to a close, you certainly hope for maybe a much better start from Sins. If they don't win this round here, it is certainly concerning, as you had that minute to sort of come into your own, but either way, I think it's still not super alarming quite yet, especially as long as we don't see a match point from Vanish. Especially if they're the one to initiate the overtime. Where if you win this round here and they win 2 straight, that's scary. My king, Frank Ocean.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Man, I wish I could afford his jewelry, but it's like half a grand. No time, no control. The sky is black and white. At the end of the day, I think Vanish still at least have a great chance here. And I think that even if they lose here, if they can at least get one more round, you can go back if you are Vanish and you can say, we might not be ready yet, but we're looking strong. We're looking ready. And next season, you better be very worried about us. That is a very valid thing to have happen. I think that if that happens, that's not a bad thing for Vanish at all. I think Sins are much more win now mode. We've seen that just in terms of how their players are playing. We see a lot more from them. Even their bench in general, it just feels like they're a very ready team right now for those big lights. How far they can go, I'm not sure quite yet, but I think that just the side right now of Sins feels much more ready for the playoffs, for those BO3s right now. Especially with they have a much deeper map pool in general than Vanish, who still have an okay map pool, but nowhere near what you'd hope.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
Once again, a very, very slow start, and Sanctuaries once again is playing this aggressive angle in operational, just trying to sort of be, I guess, the battering ram, an unexpected player they don't see, but not so often at this point it might be a little bit too expected. Cat also having a much worse game so far, as he was dominant in the first one, but not putting up the same numbers he did. Sin finds the first one in a round that is hoping to end it here in match point, or get to match point and end it, but Cad finally gets another on the board. Been a quiet game for him, but I think there's still a lot in him. I think there's still a lot left in the tank, especially if we see a playoffs come from them. But at the end of the day, it's all down to perspective, and if you're Vanish, you got a lot of, great things going for you. You just got to clear, these big power positions here, and this game could be yours. This overtime could certainly be yours. You're going to have a hell of a lot you got to do in between 1 and 2. That also means you really got to step up here. If you are the side of Sins, you don't want to keep this in this crazy, not so close game. You want to keep it far away. See a prone coming out as a bit of a crazy play. Finding some damage onto Braggs, but you want to find so much more. You want to find that pick. You want to find that advantage you just so desperately want, but all you got to do is not give it up here. You find damage. You're just making it so close, but Cat finds it. You finally get the advantage you hope for. That makes it 2 as Elo finds another, and everything looking to line up here. Maybe as that's the plan, and as I say that 2 bodies go down, it certainly looks to be right back to equal numbers as it could have been. However, the down at least will get right back up, keep you a little bit of space, but you're still going to find damage onto those down players. Everyone is going to be so low here, and Tachanka, which would usually be very, very, very weak, not a very strong prospect, is you can't walk through it, and time's going to wind down here. All you got to do is not throw your bodies, give yourself a match point, as that fire could wind down, but instead you swing, and You tie it back up. All you had to do was just sit in the corner and wait. Some teams just will not afford to sit down. Overall, I mean, this game, once again, it feels very surprising with how close we've seen the numbers be. You'd expect, I mean, certainly close numbers, but these are almost identical besides one man. One man who has been the defining factor and the big engine for the side of Sins. You might hate him, but you can't hate Yosef with how strong he's been so far. He's the trading machine, the refrag machine, and the big thing that's keeping this team alive. I think that, and that's not a bad thing, it's just you have to see more from someone else. Or you cannot afford, if you are Vanish, to have any player go bad. Just because we've seen so much more in terms of superstar performances from this team of Sin so far, but we haven't seen that from Vanish. We've seen a general great collective team, but we've never seen one player truly take that superstar position. You'd hope to at least find match point if you're either team here. Vanish, maybe hoping to bring it to a map 3, but I don't know if it's going to come easy here. You see the feet of the man, and the pre-fire comes out. You do whiff, though. And a whiff nade means Sanctuary, despite his extreme aggression for whatever reason, falls right back into a safe place. He can just kind of sit now in Mask Room and do a bit of a pest feel for walls. Yosef finds the first, being one of his first entries of this entire series, but it's not mean he's a bad player here. Certainly has put in his value occasionally, just as always in the trades, always in the support player that he can be. But I think he'll gladly take an entry here, take a much needed pick when they want to end this in regulation and want to have a good 7-5, 7-5 possibly. Go into the side of match point, and that looks amazing if you're a team. You win 2 games in regulation. Maybe not the strongest wins from you, but instead Cat finds another big one. Could find 2 here as he is working his way up. C4 has come out, but just barely whiffed, and that means that you have 2 untraded picks here from the side of Vanish. Gives you the numbers traded right back by Yosef as he is once again proving to be the superstar player when they need him to be there, he's there. When they need him to truly show out, he's always going to be there for you. He's the reliability you hope for and you want to have. Problem is that this Blackbeard, who is generally very strong, could be countered by those explosives that are now all gone. You're going to have to work a very, very hard shield operator to deal with almost no utility on your side. And Perk can find another as you need to find a pick here if you are Yosef, or Sanctuaries, but you need to find a body. You cannot let it go and execute at a 2v3. In this case, Perkins may be working his way behind where there's not a lot you can do right now. Unless you super aggro him. He's almost untradeable. Sanctuaries might be going for it, though. A run in, and they might not see it, but everything's coming towards them. You need to find the player now. You need to find the body. You need to at least do something. You get the down. Gives you something. But it's res. Or not res, sorry, excuse me. One goes down. Everyone is so low here as Cat is within 10 HP, but it might not matter as Pen finds it. Or sorry, Perk and match point Vanish. Making this one a close one at the minimum. Scary, scary game here. If you're Sins, you do not want to give a single game to a 14 seed. You want to end it now. And instead, for the first time in almost forever, they have the advantage in rounds, and you could very well lose this game. But you still have a lot of time. You still have overtime if you can get there. Yosef, though, once again, kind of proving to be the crazy man here. 21 and 7 on trade differential, 3 refrags, 1 trade to kill,
Defenders, protect your bomb
11 and 7. There are certainly times where players don't show their value through stats, but he is absolutely showing that value through the stats tonight, as he has been monstrous both games, putting in the trade and value he needs to. It's a little ridiculous at this point where he is the beating heart of trades, and the reason that I think that the side of Madden Y Sins is even close. We also see the deployable shield collapse. I don't know from what. Actually, I don't know what even all the impact. What? Okay. Bit odd, but whatever. End of the day, it's not a big deal. Sorry for some of you that have a later night than I do, as I'm a lucky man in Central here, as we got at least a little bit more time, but I'm still tired, man. Overall, it's not a big deal, just... we'll see. Overall, we're seeing at least a relatively normal start, but CAD finds that first one much needed. Or a trade, if you ask me. Bring it back to normal numbers. See a down player go down, and there's no real way to get him back up. This one might be untradeable and unsavable, as you're going to see possibly a 3v4 here. Which is so huge of a loss. Maybe you can buy time if you get around this corner, but not tonight, as they'll find you, and you have one player alive that can really stop this entire push. You have Yosef, who can truly be the defining factor, but he has so little time, and he has to be perfect about how he does it. Everything doesn't come towards him, and Perkins gonna try to fight him. He's being closed in from both sides in a 1v4. This one could be over in regulation here. Everything looks to be so, is all you have to do at this point is not throw the bodies, win the executes here. It's a 1v4. Just hold your numbers, and this one might be over as you're approaching it, as you're being closed in on. If you are Braggs, you have everything closing in on you, and the 14 seed takes the map, and we're going to map 3.
This is Sprays, and this is the Counting Cards Podcast Week 1. Today we have with us Brian from Wild Boys.
Hello.
Leader. Let's start simple, though. Who are you?
My name's Brian. I am the CEO / chairman of the Wild Boys organization / LLC.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let's look to the past.
Okay.
So, how did you start the org? How did it come to be?
How did I start the org? Well, funny enough, one day I was sitting there with a group of friends at this place called Twin Peaks, and one of my friends mentioned Jinxie, and I was like, Jinxie, who the fuck is that? So they pulled up his Twitch, and we were watching him, and he said something about like a $50,000 like game. I was like, what? There's no way. So me going into Discord and going around, I went through the main R6 server on Discord, and then I got recruited by forgot what org it was, but some small org where me, Knight, and Toxic, were, when we get farther into the podcast, they'll become relevant, recruited me to go play with them. Well, we joined this org together, and we were sitting there, and I was like, oh, okay. Learning on how leagues work, on who runs things. I was like, I want to do this. So one day I was like, yo, Knight, Toxic, if I make an organization, will you guys join? And they were like, hell yeah. And now that's the beginning of Wild Boys right there.
How many teams do you have in the beginning?
Okay. So in the very beginning of Wild Boys, I didn't understand on how necessarily comp worked. I thought as if I get 5 players, I have a team. I didn't understand that you had to have the best of the best, or they all had to be champ. So me, Knight, and Toxic decided to make 23 teams in Wild Boys when we first started. And half the team were coppers, half were like silvers, a couple plats. I think we had 1 diamond for 23 teams. And then, yeah, and then through then, we became more knowledgeable in the comp scene. And now, today, I'm pretty sure we have 12 teams.
So to also go off of that, is there like one player or a specific player or specific team that helped you gain popularity?
Yes. So, are you guys familiar with the guy named Cosmic?
A little.
Okay. So, Cosmic, one day, I was sitting there on Wild Boys posting looking for org/players. I was going, hey, join Wild Boys. We're this and that. Well, Cosmic reached out, and his team at the time was called Code Black. And they were, in my opinion, probably one of the best teams in comp at the time. And Cosmic was like, hey, I have a really good team looking for an org. I'm willing to help get you started and etc. So I was like, shit, help me out. Well, Cosmic, me, Knight, and Toxic all got in a VC, and we talked. And next thing later, Code Black joined Wild Boys, and from there, we took off like a rocket ship. I think we went from 50 people in our Discord server to 500 in a matter of 2 months. So when I say we skyrocketed, it was very fast.
All right.
Crazy.
And so you kind of contribute your success a little bit to picking up Code Black and all that, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
All
Without
right,
Cosmic, we would have had a very rough start. Absolutely, 100%.
Well, we're back here, and apparently we have to make it as close as possible. As we see the 14 seed, and we see the 3 seed. Go to map 3 here. With a equal round differential, had to come down to a coin flip. As no side can truly pull ahead here today, as this is the most tooth and nail game we have seen in a long time, folks. But when in doubt, you want to have that, obviously. Who wants to have a game that is obviously beat down? And who just tagged me? Change our life, so we are doing fine though in timing though. I'm a little bit surprised. Well, we are hopefully gonna have a very good game here as we are on that final map and always the best one.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Where the fuck the function? Overall, a very default start. Once again, I think we're gonna expect that. You do not want to see a crazy play early on. I mean, your team does. When I saw you like bless me, come at you like bless me to death. That's your best, Jane. All right, back to this game. A little bit slow to start. Had some tech issues because when in doubt, multi-streaming is a bitch. Restream is never safe in servers. I swear those servers are actual paper maches. But whatever. Doing that. So far, very slow start. Is surprisingly, we don't see even any aggression at all from the side of Sin. I think they're very fine with playing this slow. But Sins, I think once again, we've shown that they can be slow and still provide value. Cat at least finds one though, and a pretty big one at that. Is getting rid of the Thatcher means you can't really get any of the good hatches here. They're going to be almost impossible to grab. This means you have yourself, hopefully, a guaranteed hatch, and this also means that this take is going to be very, very door-centered. Now we want to see Sin's down 2 players here. That's even worse. You want to see a big step up here. You need to see Brags. You need to see Sanctuary. Someone come up and do something. Yosef is the one to do it. Finds 2 picks, bringing it right back to 3-3. He's on fire, Jesus. Someone stop this man. Contain him, because apparently they won't, and he's going to take all they give him. Bragg's planning to do the next thing, trying to one it up. Instead, he gets shot down. Sanctuary's with another 2, and when in doubt, trust these 2 players for your yin and yang. Your 1 and 2 is they're going to be everything you have, everything you need, and Sin's got it locked up. Who needs hatches when you have pure gun skill and the aggression to win it all? First round, and we will have a slight tech pause. We're back there. Sorry about the slight break. Had to fix some tech issues on both sides, but back ready to go. And a round that shouldn't have been won, once again, showing that sometimes you don't really need that wall. At the end of the day, it is an FPS. If you shoot better, you can win it out. Would I recommend it? Maybe not, but... Well, when in doubt, trust your players and you'll win it out sometimes. I wouldn't expect it, but take what you can get. In this case, hopefully take a much-needed round win, as you would not want to seriously try to make this one close. You need to just win it out here, win it out hopefully faster than your last one, and dominate, get a good half here, and just try to finish it, because you do not want to give Vanish any time on overtime. Statistically, they're an amazing team the second you take them to overtime on Clubhouse. Why specifically overtime on Clubhouse? I don't know, but apparently they got the secret sauce to get in their enemies' mentals the second it goes to overtime on this map. So don't. You don't really want to do that against a team like this. You don't want to give them any single piece of space. You want to just dominate and hopefully move on to a much better second round quarterfinals, if you will. These hatches aren't going to be easy to get either, as you're going to have to rely on Twitch to do it, and it's a risky strategy trying to give everything all to one person. An all or nothing strategy, all dependent on one drone here to get rid of those Cades. Can you do it? I don't know yet, but we'll see. I don't know what the plan is here. Apparently he knows better than me and actually got the Cade there. He had both of them safe. He had both of them safe for that hatch. Damn, okay. They're at least getting the second hatch here. They're getting Moto. They got their other point of entry, starting to sort of get themselves together, get themselves ready for that execute with a minute 33 left. It's ever so looming over them that they do have to eventually go for it. Win? Could certainly see it be a later one. Sins has shown that before, but cannot afford to leave it too late here, especially with a team like Vanish who are very willing to hold it. They're not willing to swing you when they have those numbers. We're seeing a very passive round here, and I think it's all going to come down to the last 30 seconds here. The second execute comes in, all hell is going to break loose, bro. Everyone is going to be ready. You see Sanctuary is ready for it, and Sin finds the first one there on the gridlock, but he drops, goes for it, swings one, trying to swing two, but it's all too much for the man, and they might keep advantage, but not quite too much. Bring back to a 4v2 as Yosef finds another dominant so far in this map, and once again, it feels like a very strong force, a force of nature, one that can't be stopped in any round, as you might be able to find one, but this is a 2v1, and Brag's got its lockdown. The rotates have been questionable at times, but when in doubt, it seems that Sin's much better, and their aggression is finally locked in and tuned and ready. A much better time, as you don't got a lot to spare here. This is your all or nothing. This is your you win now, or your ass is sent home. Now, picks-wise, not really anything that's going to break anything. You know, break the world, break the thinking of a game, but it's what you expect at this point. It feels like these teams are very fine with default takes. They're fine with playing default, and I don't see any big change to that. I don't think we will. I just listened to... I just went to Metallica on a playlist to death metal. Or not death metal, lo-fi girl. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, Spotify Shuffle is not it, gang. Apple Music better. What are my eyeballs witnessing? But none of the more important things and/or this game. Overall, I mean, you do at least have the Azami to play around with. It also means they're going to avoid the side of literally anything close to gym and bedroom, as you have no castle to hold it, and I promise you, when there is no castle on the board, we just genuinely don't even include the stream application of gym all the time, or it's our third choice. I'd rather play bar and stage than try to play gym bedroom without a castle. It's that bad. Maybe a little bit ridiculous, but some teams have their patterns, and Jin finds the first one in what could be very free Raptors here. As you took the first big pick, there is nothing more to stop you, and you might have essentially a free ticket to the entirety of this spot, as it is all being destroyed, and you might have a bandit there to stop it, but one man and a Monty closing in. This doesn't look great for him. He's going to have to fight a 2v1, and odds that I don't see it going in his favor, as he has too much to do and not enough time, not enough support, and Jin's going to find two off the back of just using the Monty to bait, using the Monty as that main force to deal with, and he's going to put himself in a plant position super early here. Only a minute in, and we're already seeing a plant go down, but a C4 could change it. However, it's not a full death in here, and he can go back for it again. Elo finds one with his C4, but you're going to see someone from below. Perkin grabs it, and Brags grabs another. 3v1 here. All you got to do is pick up the defuse, go for another plant. Now, this is going to be nearly impossible, as you're going to try to hold this off. You're going to have to try to clear an offense that shouldn't be easy, even possible to deal with Sin being the one to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my god, being the one to do it in a 3-0 half for Sin. Much better than the 7-5 losses before, and I mean, we've seen this sort of thing before. We saw 3-1, and look how that turned out, but hey, let's keep your hopes up if you're Sin. If you're a Sins fan, your hopes are still up. Crap, I forgot to... Well, I guess screw it. We'll do predictions. Twitch predictions are definitely so late this time. Jeez. Yeah, no, that doc rotate was so confusing the hell out of me. Overall, I mean, the stats are still relatively similar, despite the round differential. I think that's just how it feels sometimes these teams is you see things swing so hard and you see these games come so very close, but once again, one team just can't pull it out.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Well, maybe a little bit late in timing, but 2 minutes. Prediction up. That seems like good timing. Nobody thought this would happen. It's crazy. Yeah. I gotta add channel point things that don't suck absolute labuns.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
Apparently, Guns at least has the good plan here as he finds the first one, and he might not be able to escape, per se, but apparently he goes for it, and this might be a little bit of a stupid one. However, the Madman runs across and does somehow live across, literally just running against an open field, essentially. But you know where that player is, you know where that Monty's going to be, you know where he's trying to push. There's no secret here, it's just, can you stop it? Sanctuary seems to be very fine with the aggression here, but all in due time as Jin finds one, a player drops down, and this one looks very unlikely for him to win as he has everything pushing in on him, 2 angles he has to watch, and all it takes is one good time, one good shot. So we're going to see a bit of a whiff from both sides, eventually finished off by Jin's double kill in the round. Now you have this annoying, once again, Sanctuary's pushing up with the shield. Doesn't matter who's on it, just feels like the shield has always been the issue here. You might be able to get the numbers a little bit lower in a 3v2, but it isn't going to matter much here when this could very well go down. You have no real way to stop it, and this is almost a guaranteed plant, and very possibly a 4-0 end here is what looked so dominant in one map has fallen so far. 4-0 start. Bro. Alright. Chalk it. Overall, MVP is probably leaning towards Yosef, I'd say, again. Not really putting up those numbers on the entry, but +8 on the trades, 6 and 2, and 2 refrags. I mean, that's already pretty dominant if you ask me. You're getting what you need, and you're getting at least a good amount.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
The question is, what do we have left in store for this team? What do we have left in store for Vanish, who are at least look to be very much diminished, going so down on a side that should have been easily one of their best. Instead, you got on 4-0 on a map that matters so much. This is your do or die. This is the pressure's on you. You need to hold up, and instead they crumbled like a cookie. They crumbled more than I've seen Panera cookies crumble. My God, are those sometimes crumbling. We're going to approach 3 hours here if we don't see this one. If we just see like 2 rounds from Vanish, we're genuinely going to hit a 3-hour mark. In which case, I'm also pretty sure the ads are going to come back up. So rest in peace to some of you that don't have Prime or Turbo, whatever the hell it's called. Sub to, but I wouldn't recommend that, low-key. Do not sub to this bum. Use that money for like anything else. Overall, though, it just doesn't look like the same team we saw. It doesn't look like the same team that was able to keep up with Sins on layer. It doesn't look like the same team that's able to handle keeping up on both maps, to be fair. It's just what we saw wasn't there, and now what is there is a shell of itself. Sanctuaries at least looks to be putting on the aggression here, but he spots the Vigil. He's no longer a secret and caught up by Jins, as once again it feels like he is playing around those shields much better than we've seen before, where he's been able to chemistry and kind of play this very perfect role with the shields to be in the right position at the right time, provide the value he needs. Gets damage, but it isn't gonna be enough as Elo closes in on him, and good cross there being held, but two found. Cad at least finds another, but in a 3v1 here, this looks all but over. This looks like a done game as a 5-0 start here. I don't know what changed between 1 and 2, but apparently we're going to approach what very well could be the end of this game, and a very anticlimactic end to a game that was dead-ass just straight equal. There was no leader in lead. There was no leader in anything. Everyone was dead set. 7-5, 7-5. They had to roll a coin, or flip a coin, to decide who got map change. And apparently, Sins are the greatest attacking team since Sliced Bread, because since like Obey, more accurately, and that means terrifying team.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Overall, I mean, we'll see, but it does not look to be, I think, that what you're hoping for. It does not look to be the anything we were hoping for so far. What could have been and what has been has so far been two different things. I expected, you know, like a 3-3 split maybe, overtime, you know, a nail-biter of a game that almost would rival Voltage. Probably not break it, because that game was straight up just like, it was 8-7 one game and a 5-round comeback. Technically still possible. Like a 7-5 and like a 7-3 and then 8-7. Like, we're not seeing that, I don't think, but might still be able to. We're just gonna see Vanish absolutely win this round, have the greatest like Napoleon level general overtaking, and just maybe can we see them win a singular round. That, or this turns into a 6-0 half. This one is all but over, and we see a 7-0 possibly to end it off, and Vanish will look diminished. So again, you'll see this a lot of times with teams that aren't ready, is you might be able to deal with those first two maps because that's normal, but that third map where everything is on the line has so much pressure on a team, and you'll crumble. You can scrim all you want. You can scrim 30 rounds a day, but you'll never truly be used to that pressure. That's why you gotta play in leagues. You gotta learn to get used to it. That's why some teams play in tournaments so much. Sanctuaries finds the first, and it feels like he could very well be the dynamite effect that caused issues, but instead Viper keeps it close. Swinging right back up, possibly finding two here. And they might be down 5 rounds here, but there's still at least some fight for this team. There's still at least some true passion here. There's still some anything. That little hope that you hope for. No matter how much I can blab on about stats, there's no matter much how, you know, it should happen. Like, it doesn't, the stats don't support it. You can never truly be sure. Yosef, the man to drop first, and he's immediately caught up by Zyro, as for the first time in a long time, they look like a truly team that can hang. That flashes that we saw, a team that we saw win a round, win a map, is finally back with us. And we see a generational play here from Sanctuaries and Sin. Odds are not, but Maybe. Just maybe. Instead, maybe we see a truly awakened Vanish team. As they might have been weak, but maybe they still got a little left in the tank. Maybe they still have something there to work with. Maybe there's still some hope if you're a Vanish fan. If you are, I also feel your condolences, because a 5-1-1/2 is about as hard as you can to come up from. But, you never know. Holy shit, someone actually... No one betted on Sins. 160 points on Vanish. It's kind of funny. Sure. Overall, I wouldn't expect anything crazy from the bans here. The default way is to do it, and I think Sins are not going to try to break the world with their bans. They're going to play default. They have 4 rounds in advantage. All they have to do is not throw, and they have easily one of the easiest wins they'll have. And what could be a much-needed strong finish. Their bracket could genuinely be hell if it comes out badly. I'd have to look it up again, but I'm pretty sure they would have to play Voltage and Redemption at one point. No, because they're on different sides. I don't know. I mean, as hard as these stats do lean, Guns is still 3-0 on the entry. I mean, there might not be a lot of hope for this team, but there's still some genuine fight for some players. Cad is the main fighter, as he is still the top entry player by far. That isn't saying much when you see he is the MVP of that team, and the lowest player, or sorry, not the lowest, out of their top 3, I see 167 EPS, 137, and 135. He's only 158. He's just barely above him. Entries-wise, though, it does not look the same. Sanctuaries is still 2-1, because once again, that man is still a freak of nature when it comes to entries, but it's not what you'd hope. It's not the same level of dominance you'd expect. I want to know this post schedule, or this in these next games. It is certainly, either way, if you are Sins, it is one hell of a fight if you want to get your way there. We had DME win pretty dominantly. Next one will be probably one of the greatest games, and I'll probably cast it, is DME versus Voltage next week. That will be a genuinely amazing game. We have Santos and the Senate Double OG. Those will go, either one of those will play Wild Boys Pineapple with a Pizza, a team that is the definition of either a genuinely obey level team or hot garbage, and there's no between. You don't know which one. Flipping a coin, more or less. Armani SGAs could be good, but Redemption, both of the teams here, I think, could make a fight. But I genuinely think that it would not surprise me if we see Deadly Sins all the way in semifinals at minimum. Insomniacs, who they'd have to fight is they'd have to beat Armani or SGAs, which I think is very beatable. At a minimum, it's going to be close here. There's at least some fight here from Cad, as he intends to be the entirety of their team, because, yeah, who needs other teammates? What is that? Instead, just rely on yourself, be your own thing, and Brags at least puts in some fight, but he has to be literally perfect, as Yosef is not in the greatest situation to find a kill here. He might survive, but I don't think that's going to be enough here. I think they need to find a kill, get the 2v1, and preferably sooner rather than later. He might be lucky enough where you can't hear him. You find one down, all you have to do is not swing here, and this could certainly be over. You just barely missed his body, but you're going to find it right back. This could be a 2v1 here. All you got to do here is just hide in your corners, and he's realistically going to swing into you. The madman might plan it instead. He says, he's going to just go for it. The genuine crazy person is he just straight up ignores the idea of reviving his down teammate, instead goes for the plant. Well, you at least know where he is. You know where the plant is, but it might not be enough. Yosef has to... Sorry, Yosef is dead. Brags has to find it, and he doesn't have a great way to find it here. Guns has the better positioning, flashes to spare, and that's everything you need. He knew where it was, and it was a trade too, which makes it even worse, but Vanish not going down without a fight. They're not going down without at least putting up something on the board. Another music recommendation. Listen to Heat, all caps, by Colin with an exclamation point. Y'all gotta know rap. I gotta know the ball. But once again, these stats are kind of very much all over the place, except for Yosef being kind of the Yosef and Sanctuaries is he has plus 11 on trades. Good lord. But the refrags have been so perfect so far for Sins, and that's the big reason why they've been getting so many of these rounds. We're seeing Yosef with 2, Sanctuaries with 1, Brags with 2. Let's see here. Jin's with the only one with no refrags, and then Sin with another one. They are so consistent right now in refrags, it is ridiculous. That's the big difference right now between these teams is there is 2 total on the entirety of Vanish, and there's just so much value we're seeing from them. Where Sins feels like they're a much more cohesive team. But there's a little bit of fight left in the team. Maybe Vanish can pull a little bit something together. Maybe pull a miracle out of their ass, but if that happens, I think there's going to be serious issues if that does straight up happen. Mostly with, I'm pretty sure half the teams would be actually astonished. Because respectfully, nobody expects this to be a win. It's not within reason. But you never know. Once again, you know where he is, and apparently this angle might actually be the perfect one. Is you can just straight up hang here, and there won't be any way for him to really get you with the Ying. You find a much needed first pick, and you can now focus quite a bit of pressure here onto this Monty if you want to. He might not know it, but there's no one even really nearby. He can essentially just play around it. Once again, he might be calling for players, but there's nothing there right now, and certainly I hope you look for, but apparently impacts or something is going out because madness on all the utility. And Perkin has about as many people as I've ever seen coming towards him. He has the whole team essentially all holding a cross somewhere or another. Sin finds another upstairs on those rafters angles, watching essentially what feels like every single angle at one time. Sanctuaries with another 5v2, and maybe you find a couple, maybe you find something, maybe Swunk and Viper can find a little bit to bring it back together, but you're looking for miracles here. And also a serious throw here if you are Sins. Should be an easy slam dunk of a match point. Yeah, I don't even... It feels like we've seen quite a bit of parity within these games. And also one of the... What is that angle? Hold that angle. No, hold on. What is the... This is the most absurd... I get that there's like a one-way, but this feels a little absurd at this point. I mean, you find the kill anyways. Triple kill for a Sin, and this one is all but over. All you have to do is not throw your bodies at him, and as long as you don't treat this like it's a WWE match, this one should be a done deal. But you never know. There's still a chance. There's still a slight chance of some parity. Still a slight chance of something happening, but you're looking for a 1 in a million here. As you can sit outside all you want, but what is this going to do you as 25 seconds wind down, and you might have been able to make it close, but that countdown is looming over you, and Sin finds another, holding one of the worst, excuse me, not worst, one of the nastiest pixels I've ever seen. And we approach series point. It might have been close. You might have been able to get around. You might have been able to get a full map on Sins, but they look strong, ready, and so far this looks to be a beatdown in the making. Squeaky ass mic stand. Eventually I gotta get a webcam, man. It's on a list of things to do. I also don't want to spend like $150 on a good webcam. So 22 clips. Let's do.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
80s, 85 route, I think. Goated stuff. Wu-Tang Clan. I got a little bit. Or this would be, excuse me, I'm listing off the wrong things. This is GZA, Fourth Chamber. Liquid Sword, one of the best rap albums in the world, in my opinion. I will stand on that hill. It's one of the greatest beats you can ask for in a singular album. But overall, it looks to be a very, very strong and almost a guaranteed win if you are Sins, unless we see a phase level, I suppose, throwaway from Sins and a Fury level comeback. This one looks like you might be able to find a round or two, but the clock is looming over your head as any pick you give up, anything you truly give to a team like Sins, it might be your last. It might be everything you had, because the margin for error right now is so small. Any entry you lose is essentially everything. Any pick is one less you will ever have to work with. As this will, if there's gonna be a comeback here from Vanish, this has to be a perfection and masterclass in how you trade. You have to learn how to trade perfectly, and we need to see the refrags step up massively. It's what has been the big difference. We've seen Sins been able to hold the refrags so much better. Instead, they might try to show some aggression here, but Braggs finds the first pick and makes that to Chonka. Might have been the play for once, and maybe able to find 3 here if he can guess where Cat is, but with everything closing in on him, can he truly guess the right position? Yosef does, and this one looks all but over as a 5v2 in match point, series point in that matter, and Vanish maybe looking for something, maybe looking to see if they can claw it back, find a free pick, find some type of gap they can really work with, but one player leaves, and you might be able to find a 4v2. You might be able to find something, but I don't know what you're going to really do here. I'm going to assume it's a connection issue, or hope it is, because leaving mid-game is kind of wild. I don't care if it's 6-2. A 3v2, it looks like there's still a plan in place. There still might be a chance. There might be a round in here to work with, but Perkin is finding everything coming towards him, and with a pistol in hand, it's a 3v1. All down to one man, all down to Elo to pull it all out with everything on his shoulders to just bring it back together where he cannot fail even once. Damage is everything because he doesn't have the chance. He doesn't have a second chance. You might find one, but all that damage is going to come up and add. Finally, it's ended by Sanctuaries where we reach a 2-1, and after a long fought battle, Saints pull it out. 7-5. 7-5, 7-2. Sins win. That'll be all. Well, actually, not all for tonight, as we got a little bit of a post game with the winning team. I gotta figure out audio.
Yo, Cards, what's up, bro?
Can you hear me good?
Yep, I can hear you, bro.
Well,
Listen.
how does it feel?
Left, but I don't care. I say this to the world. It feels great, you know. So how we win 1-1 here? We went to Layer. Never played Layer as a team in a league. One of our teammates, his name is Braggs. He doesn't even know what operational is in Layer. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to get that out the way. If we have any other map but Layer, we are shitting on those kids. Absolutely, like dog shitting on those kids. But yeah, we still came through with the victory like I knew we were gonna do. I knew we were gonna sweep them when we came to club. You know, pretty decent on club, pretty solid. And yeah.
I mean, now that you have this one, though, I think the bigger question is, who do you think is the scariest opponent you're gonna have to come up against?
Honestly, I don't fear any man. I fear no man, and I feel like my team feels that way too. But I really want to see the #1 seed because I want to prove that we're the #1. I want to show these people that we deserve to have the #1 seed, and we will come through with the victory and bring it all home for Team Make-A-Wish here.
We will certainly see, but I think the biggest thing to look forward to is y'all are going to have a relatively tough schedule. Either, realistically, I think you guys are going to go against Armani, who is top, well, is I'd argue a top D1 team right now in most leagues.
Yeah.
And then if you beat them, you're going to have to head to the hellhole of Charlie Whirly and that Legion shotgun. at Redemption.
Honestly, listen, I want to see Charlie Willie right now. We can play him right now. I'll play him right now. I'll tell you that right now. I want to see anybody. Armani can come get it. Anybody. If anybody's in this stream, I want the smoke. We all want the smoke. This was just a warm up for our next rounds. We want it all. We want it all. We're proving that we're the best team in here.
Yo, can I say something?
Quickly.
Say
Can I
it
say
right now.
If you're listening to this and you're playing against me, never swing me, bitch. I'm the best fucking console player on this game.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, listen, cards. So let me tell you here, we could have also forfeited those kids because they had 2 people that wasn't a part of the roster. So, and actually we just didn't do it because, you know, we're not some bitches.
Well,
Yeah.
it's good to know. And that'll be all for tonight. Good playoff series, 2-1 win. Sins, pull it out.
Thank you, cards.